Chapter 293. The circle drawn by the Great Elder actually overlapped with the area that Song Yin had mentioned. Even Wang Sheng was a little surprised, but he did not show it on his face. When Wang Sheng and Song Yin were together at night, Wang Sheng finally brought up his suspicions. I suspect that the Great Elder and the rest really do know something about my father. Song Yin once again expressed her suspicions. Wang Sheng nodded. If not for this reason, there was no way to explain why the Song family's area overlapped with the area that Song Yin knew. Furthermore, the Song family did not go to the Red Bear clan and the Divine Eagle prison, nor did they go to the core area. Instead, they circled an area close to the Song family. This was very unusual. If Wang Sheng did not know anything about the place of Thousand Extremes, he might not have suspected anything. However, Wang Sheng was very clear that there were only 3 places of value in the place of Thousand Extremes: the Red Bear clan, the Divine Eagle prison, and the Lin family. Other than these 3 places, the area that the Song family circled was not worth paying attention to. That's good. We don't have to think of a way to change our route. Wang Sheng thought about the benefits and comforted Song Yin. However, you should be careful in the place of Thousand Extremes. Act according to the situation. Song Yin nodded. Although she was not particularly satisfied with Wang Sheng's arrangement of her, old Yu, and the 2 Song family experts in the same group, she knew that this arrangement was the most reassuring for the elders. After sending Song Yin back to rest, the night passed quickly. The next morning, everyone gathered again. According to Wang Sheng's instructions, they prepared their equipment and supplies and set off immediately. As they set off from the Song family's manor instead of the edge of the place of Thousand Extremes, it took them more than 2 days to walk in the Song family's territory. Along the way, Wang Sheng was still thinking that if the royal ceremony ended well, this would be the Song nation. The 3rd elder and the 5th elder followed the group all the way to the edge of the place of Thousand Extremes before stopping and watching the group enter the place of Thousand Extremes. After the group entered the place of Thousand Extremes, the Song family realized that sometimes having more people was not an advantage. When there were fewer people, Wang Sheng could take care of everyone by himself. However, the more people there were, the longer the line would be. Wang Sheng's cultivation was limited, and the range of his attention was also limited. As such, it was inevitable that there would be some oversights. To put it bluntly, Wang Sheng had repeatedly emphasized to them to be careful, to be as careful as possible, to not be curious, and to not be unscrupulous. Basically, it wouldn't be much of a problem to do these things in the grounds of Thousand Despair. Wang Sheng could detect ferocious demonic beasts in advance. As long as he didn't let those dormant insects or small demonic beasts hurt him, there would be no problem. They hadn't even entered 100 li, and 4 of them were already injured. Fortunately, they were all minor injuries, and only one of them was poisoned. Fortunately, under Wang Sheng's strong request, they brought double the amount of antidote pills and so on. There were also companions around, and they were treated in time, so their lives were not in danger. However, after experiencing this a few times, no one dared to not take Wang Sheng's words seriously anymore. At the end of the day, the reason why these people were injured was entirely because of what Wang Sheng said: carelessness and unscrupulousness, especially the one who was poisoned. His cultivation was considered to be the top in their group, and he was also the group leader. He was a few years older than Wang Sheng, but when he saw Wang Sheng giving orders, he was extremely dissatisfied. He was originally the family's genius expert, and all the glory was on him. In the end, it was all snatched away by a 3rd-degree realm cultivator, Wang Sheng. Especially when Song Yin and Wang Sheng were being lovey-dovey along the way. It made him burn with jealousy. He couldn't wait to rush up, kill Wang Sheng, and snatch Song Yin away. Unable to calm down, he had the heart to challenge Wang Sheng's authority. When they passed through a certain area, Wang Sheng specially reminded them not to touch a certain flower. When he passed behind, he pretended to accidentally trip, and his body bumped into the flower that Wang Sheng had forbidden to touch. The tragedy happened at this time. That flower itself was nothing, but the pollen inside was a kind of highly poisonous little flying insect's favorite. When the flower was hit, the flying insect flew up and some of the furry scales on its wings spread above the expert. The protective mask was just a bamboo hat and some fine gauze, which could block the flying insect from getting in, but it could not block the fine powder. In particular, Wang Sheng still had a trick up his sleeve. The hard mask and activated carbon filter layer were not shared, and when they encountered miasma, they used detoxification pills to resist it. The highly poisonous fine powder was inhaled, and immediately the expert's face turned green. The next moment, the young expert who had pretended to be tripped plunged into the rotten leaves under his feet and did not move. If it weren't for a few companions around who saw that the situation was not good and immediately fed him antidote, he would not even have the chance to wake up. Even so, it took at least 4 of the Imperial Treasury's latest detoxification pills and 2 cleansing heart pills to snatch the expert's life back. However, Wang Sheng himself had taken the cleansing heart pill and naturally knew the effect of it. The detoxification was effective, but there was also a side effect, and that was strong diarrhea. The expert's whole body was weak after being poisoned, and he either had to lie on the ground to solve it, or he had to be supported by someone. In short, the expert's face was completely lost. When facing Wang Sheng and Song Yan, he could not even lift his head. But this time, no one dared to take Wang Sheng's warning lightly. Anyway, everyone could see that Wang Sheng did not care about anyone except Missy. He would give the necessary reminders, but whether others obeyed them or not, he did not care at all. Even if someone was injured, as long as it was not Song Yan, it was estimated that if it was Song Laoyu, Wang Sheng would not take the initiative to help. The team had to stop for a day because of this. Although everyone present was an expert, it was impossible for anyone to carry an army, and it was even more impossible for a team to stay. Without Wang Sheng, unless the team turned around and left, it would be impossible for them to survive. The injured ones were also given a day to recuperate before continuing on their journey. Once again, no one dared to challenge Wang Sheng's authority. Along the way, everyone, regardless of whether they were experts or weak, was as obedient as a grandchild. Whatever Wang Sheng said, they obeyed. No one dared to urge Wang Sheng to move faster, and they allowed Wang Sheng to lead everyone to their destination. In order to not be too obvious, Wang Sheng did not lead everyone to the area Song Yan had designated, but in a different direction. Then, they took a big detour in that direction, until they reached Song Yan's destination. Along the way, Wang Sheng did not exceed his expectations. Other than the ruins of a few small villages, there was nothing else. Wang Sheng also did a very good job. He seemed to be very impatient to lead the way, very impatient to search, and only under Song Yan's kind persuasion did he slowly turn to the area Song Yan had designated. Not long after arriving, Wang Sheng discovered something strange. Chapter 294. What's different? Wang Sheng couldn't put his finger on it. However, the feeling was so different. It was as if there was something more to this place than the other places. What could it be? Wang Sheng led the group forward, carefully observing his surroundings. Song Yan had already been hinted at by Wang Sheng, so she was also carefully observing her surroundings, trying to find something unusual. Suddenly, Wang Sheng noticed something different about this place. The plants here were particularly lush, and the various living creatures here were also more lively than in other places. Simply put, the vitality here was more abundant than in other places. The land of thousand extremities had always been a lively place, and the animals here were more active than in other places. Perhaps it was because it was sealed, or perhaps it was because of the hundreds of formations. However, formations couldn't last for hundreds of years without the support of spiritual energy. But no matter what, to be able to grow uninterrupted for decades meant that it was more active than the outside world. There was no change in the spiritual energy. If there was, the experts of the Song family would have noticed it before Wang Sheng. Other than Wang Sheng, it was the first time the others had entered the land of thousand extremities, so it was normal that they didn't notice the activity here. Who could tell which part of the forest was denser than the other? It wasn't the same place to begin with, so even if they noticed the difference, they wouldn't think it was strange and wouldn't pay attention. Wang Sheng was different. Wang Sheng had entered the land of thousand extremities many times, so he quickly noticed the difference. More importantly, Wang Xing noticed that there was something different about the bug's behavior. The word formation in the 9 symbolic words could increase Wang Sheng's affinity with animals. When used on enemies, it would increase their hatred and the affected insects would attack them in a frenzy. However, Wang Sheng discovered during his research that the word wholeness could sense danger. At its strongest, it could read people's minds and manipulate them. It was impossible for Wang Sheng to manipulate people's minds, but when he used it on the almost mindless insects, it was slowly becoming effective. The combination of the word wholeness and the word formation was the reason why those bugs were able to follow Wang Sheng. Now in Wang Sheng's source spirit space, the all word was beginning to release a bit of light. Since he could control bugs, he could naturally feel the difference in bugs. What Wang Sheng sensed from the zergs was that they were too active. This was clearly abnormal. Wang Sheng didn't know what caused this change, but it was enough to show that this area was different from other places. In that case, Song Yan's suspicions might very well be true. It was obvious that the experts of the Song clan had entered the grounds of despair with a special purpose. In fact, they had been searching for something ever since Wang Sheng said that they had reached the edge of the grounds of despair. It was obvious that they were looking for something along the way. Wang Sheng didn't ask, nor did he care. He just chatted and laughed with Song Yan. In the process of conversing with this seemingly weak but actually strong beauty, Wang Sheng was even allowed to occasionally hold Song Yan's hand. Of course, it was only during special times, such as when they needed Wang Sheng's help to climb over a pit or jump over a cliff. In any case, in the eyes of the experts of the Song clan, Wang Sheng had completely fallen under Song Yan's pomegranate skirt. He seemed to be completely obedient to Song Yan. As a matter of fact, Wang Sheng's usual principle of waiting for the right time to return once he reached his destination was no longer effective against Song Yan. They had personally seen Song Yan smile at Wang Sheng and act coquettishly. Then, Wang Sheng happily followed Song Yan all the way. This was still the edge of the grounds of despair that Song Yan had mentioned. The deeper they went, the more strange things Wang Sheng found. Song Yan was also clearly getting impatient. She had been acting like she was anxious for the past few days. Although she was forcefully suppressing it, it was still very obvious to Wang Sheng. Song Yan's father, the missing clan leader of the Song clan, had been looking for him for a few days. After all, he was still a young man. He wasn't calm enough, so he gave himself away when he was secretly communicating with Wang Sheng. What did you guys find? Song Yan's behavior was finally discovered by the 2 experts in her group. Without saying a word, they immediately questioned her. They didn't take Wang Sheng, the temporary team leader, or Song Yan, the young lady of the Song clan, seriously at all. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to harm the young lady? Song Laoyu immediately stood in front of Song Yan and blocked the 2 experts for her. At the same time, she shouted loudly. After days of observation, Wang Sheng had already discovered that Song Laoyu didn't actually know much about the inside story. Song Yan was very cautious and didn't even tell Song Laoyu. Of course, it wasn't that she didn't trust Song Laoyu, but that Song Laoyu often went out. Song Yan was afraid that if she told him, she would accidentally give herself away and the elders of the Song clan would find out. Song Laoyu's voice was very loud, and it immediately alarmed the people in the surrounding groups. Everyone gathered around them. Unfortunately, when they saw that the 2 parties in the conflict were Song Yan, Song Laoyu, and the 2 experts, everyone silently stood on the side of the 2 experts. Sai, you really are a failure. When Wang Sheng saw that no one chose Song Yan, he couldn't help but shake his head. The Song clan is so big, and you're the young lady of the Song clan, yet you only have Uncle Yu to help you. As he shook his head and sighed, Wang Sheng slowly walked to Song Yan's side. It seems that I'm the only one who wants you. A friend in need is a friend indeed. You must be touched. After you go out, don't be a young lady anymore. Find a time to marry me. Song Yan's face was a little pale, and she was very upset. If it wasn't for her impatience, she wouldn't have been discovered by those 2 experts. But it was too late to say anything now. When Song Yan heard Wang Sheng's teasing words, she wanted to laugh. But her lips only twitched a little before she couldn't laugh anymore. Although Song Yin wanted to agree to Wang Sheng, but this wasn't the right occasion to say all these. The two experts were at least in 7th stage realm. This time round, the Song clan didn't act like the royal family to bring in an old monster-level expert. But the other groups also had 4 7th stage realm experts, 6 7th stage realm experts, plus the rest who were all 5th stage realm and 9th stage realm experts, had already taken care of Wang Sheng, Song Yin, and Song Laoyu. What on earth have you discovered? At this moment, the person in charge of the entire group had changed to this expert named Song Zhizhuan. He looked coldly at Song Yin and asked him politely, "Eldest young miss, I still address you respectfully as eldest young Mississippi. You know that this is an important matter, so you must not make a mistake. Otherwise, don't blame us for offending you." Chapter 295. Actually, we did find something, said Wang Sheng. As soon as Wang Sheng opened his mouth, Song Yin and Song Laoyu stared at Wang Sheng in surprise. Song Yan's eyes were filled with disbelief and heartbreak, as if she had been betrayed by her closest kin. It made Wang Sheng's heart flutter. This heroic woman's eyes could speak, and she could talk without opening her mouth. Sometimes, Wang Sheng couldn't resist the temptation of her spirituality. However, Wang Sheng didn't feel like he was betraying her. He moved closer to Song Yin and was about to explain, but Song Yin took a step back in disgust. "Trust me, 20 people will definitely be more efficient than 2 people." Wang Sheng smiled and shook his head, explaining to Song Yin. This explanation made Song Yan's expression look a little better, but only a little. Song Yin still bit her lip and snorted coldly. The way she bit her lip and pouted coquettishly made Wang Sheng dumbfounded. "Ahem, you're right. 20 people will definitely be faster than 2 people." Seeing that Wang Sheng had relented, Song Jiming immediately took advantage of the situation and said with a smile, "We're all family. There's no need to be so picky. Well, Big Ming, let's go over there and discuss." Wang Sheng nodded and called out to Song Jiming. At the same time, he scolded the group of Song family members behind Song Jiming. "What are you standing there for? Do you want to die? Hurry up and disperse." As soon as Wang Sheng shouted, the group of Song family members who had been standing firmly behind Song Jiming immediately dispersed. They firmly remembered Wang Sheng's first rule. In a land of thousand despair, don't do anything that Wang Sheng didn't allow you to do. Song Yin didn't want to go over, but Wang Sheng directly pulled her hand and walked over. Song Yin tried to shake him off, but she couldn't get rid of him. She could only follow him with a cold face. She knew that things were out of control, but it didn't mean that she didn't want to participate in the decision-making. Although it was said to be on the side, it was actually to find a relatively spacious place for everyone to sit down and discuss. In fact, we've discovered some abnormalities in the past 2 days. Wang Sheng pulled Song Yin to his side and sat down. He didn't forget to pinch her hand twice to give her a hint. After sitting down, he didn't beat around the bush and immediately began to introduce them. "Did you guys notice that the jungle in this area is much denser than when we first came in?" Wang Sheng pointed out the abnormality of this place. None of the places we passed by were as lush as this place. Song Jiming and the other 7th stage realm top exponent immediately frowned as they exchanged glances with each other, and both of their eyes were filled with a shocked expression. To be honest, they hadn't noticed anything along the way. However, Wang Sheng and Song Yin had discovered it, which made them feel a little ashamed. It's not strange that you didn't notice it, because this is the first time you've entered the grounds of Thousand Despair. Wang Sheng saw through their thoughts and said in a comforting tone, "But I'm different." Everyone understood what Wang Sheng meant. Wang Sheng didn't need to say anything, and everyone knew that this wasn't the first time Wang Sheng had entered the grounds of Thousand Despair. So these abnormalities were definitely not discovered by eldest young Miss Song, but by Wang Sheng. "How many days ago did you discover this?" Song Jiming's focus wasn't on whether Wang Sheng could discover the abnormality, but when did he discover it? "Yes." Wang Sheng nodded without hesitation. "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" Song Jiming heard Wang Sheng's indifference and couldn't help but growled in a low voice. "Say so earlier? What's in it for me?" Wang Sheng looked at Song Jiming as if he was looking at an idiot. If I told you earlier, are you asking me to touch your little hand? Or accompany me to talk some sweet nothings? There's no benefit at all. Why should I tell you? I. Song Jiming was a loss for words. It was obvious that Wang Sheng had told Song Yin that he planned to pick up girls. Song Jiming wasn't a girl. So how could Wang Sheng hold his rough, calloused hand and say sweet nothings to him? That scene made him feel sick just thinking about it. Don't tell me you can give me a lot of gold coins. Wang Sheng threw Song Jiming a disdainful look. I'm not bragging, but how much can you give me? Tell me a number, and I'll give you twice that. Don't disturb me and little Yin, okay? When Wang Sheng said this, Song Jiming really wanted to give Wang Sheng gold coins to win him over. But after Wang Sheng finished speaking, Song Jiming remembered that Wang Sheng's net worth in Carefree City was probably much more than what he could mobilize in the Song family. In this way, it was simply reasonable for Wang Sheng to not tell them that he had discovered the abnormality, and it would be unforgivable if he had told them. If he dared to say that gold coins were more important than a beauty in front of beauty, he would definitely be a bachelor for the rest of his life. Song Jiming's face flushed red when he heard Wang Sheng's words, but he couldn't say a single word. Luckily, his companion next to him opened his mouth to help. What Lone Wolf said is pretty good. 20 people will definitely find it faster than 2 people, isn't it? Let's discuss it properly, isn't it? Wang Sheng put on a posture of teaching someone a lesson. You're always putting on a stance of insubordination. Why? Does your Song family like to play this trick? Is it because these large families like to do things in this way? A batch of people have to die before they know that some things can be discussed. The latter part of the sentence was completely saying that the large families did things in an overbearing manner, and of course it was a lot of sarcasm. Including when Wang Sheng was chased into the grounds of Thousand Despair to Carefree City, all parties then realized that Wang Sheng's side could be discussed. After being lectured by Wang Sheng, Song Jiming and that 7th degree realm companion couldn't say a single word. They had never had such an aggrieved moment before. But now that they had calmed down, they realized how dangerous it was to stand on the opposite side of Wang Sheng. If Wang Sheng were to turn hostile, no matter if Wang Sheng was killed or escaped, they would be trapped in the grounds of Thousand Despair. How to get out? They weren't arrogant enough to think that they would be able to cross the grounds of Thousand Despair like Wang Sheng. Even if they turned around, it would be an extremely dangerous thing. After teaching Song Jiming and his companion a lesson, Song Yan's side was delighted. The way she looked at Wang Sheng also became gentler, but they still didn't open their mouths. All right, let's get down to business. After Wang Sheng had taught them a lesson, he started to steer the topic back to the main topic. Besides the dense forest, the demonic beasts and insects here are more active than other places. This is very abnormal. Song Jiming and the others thought about it, and it seemed that there might really be such signs. But was there any reason behind it? They immediately asked. I don't know. Wang Sheng shook his head directly, but there's definitely a problem. Saying that, Wang Sheng looked at Song Jiming and the other top exponent from top to bottom and couldn't help but ridicule. Don't tell me you don't know anything. Then what were you looking for in this circle? Chapter 296. At that moment, Song Yan's eyes lit up. In that instant, she realized how brilliant Wang Sheng's question was. She had suddenly turned the tables on him. The elders definitely hadn't told Song Yan the truth about the mission, so she didn't know the details. She only knew that they were searching for valuable targets in the lands of despair, and that was it. However, Song Jiming and the others were definitely different. They must have received detailed instructions from the elders, so they definitely knew what they were looking for. Wang Sheng's rhetorical question forced Song Jiming and the other expert into a corner. It wouldn't be appropriate to tell Wang Sheng and Song Yan. But if they didn't tell them, it was obvious that they didn't want to cooperate. This put the two of them in a bit of a difficult position. Actually, we're just looking for something valuable. We don't have any specific goal, just like the royal family. The other expert quickly recovered from his embarrassment and replied nonchalantly. The royal family isn't searching aimlessly. Wang Sheng shook his head. Neither is Triumph Palace. Their goal is very specific, and their search range is limited to a few dozen kilometers. Unlike you, We've already searched 3 to 400 kilometers. Wang Sheng bit down on the other party's excuse and said very seriously, "If this is your attitude, then I can guarantee that you won't find anything." Song Jiming and Song Yin looked at each other in dismay. Wang Sheng's words weren't perfunctory. They were a threat. The thing they were looking for was so secretive that, without Wang Sheng's help, they wouldn't even be able to find a trace of it. For example, the jungle had become denser and the creatures had become more active, but they hadn't felt it at all. Only an old fox like Wang Sheng would be able to notice the abnormality. Under such circumstances, should they speak or not? The two of them looked at each other again. Song Jiming finally gritted his teeth and said to Wang Sheng and Song Yin, "Actually, we need to find a place that can accommodate a few hundred people. It's best if we can build an outpost so that the next time we come, we can explore a larger area." Among them, it was true that he was looking for a place to settle a few hundred people, but the reason behind it was half true and half false. Wang Sheng and Song Yin immediately realized that the elders must really be suspecting that the missing clan leader was still alive and well in the land of Thousand Despair. "I see." Wang Sheng stroked his bald chin and said after some deliberation, "If it's just finding a place, then it's easy. But what good will it do to me if I find it?" Hearing that Wang Sheng said it was easy, Song Jiming and the expert were overjoyed, but when Wang Sheng asked about the benefits, they immediately became embarrassed. Wang Sheng truly did not lack gold coins. What he wanted were either medicinal pills that could increase his cultivation level or high-level cultivation techniques. Not to mention Song Jiming. Even all the members of the Song family present together did not have the authority to decide these things. Raising his head, Song Jiming saw Song Yin beside Wang Sheng, who did not say a word. His heart suddenly moved, and he suddenly said, "If we find it, we will jointly propose to the elders that you marry little Yin. How about that?" When needed, Song Jiming also knew how to call the impolite eldest young miss as the intimate little Yin. Song Yin was about to object when Wang Sheng laughed and said, "Deal. Let's do that." Instantly, Song Yin was embarrassed and wanted to scold Wang Sheng, but she did not know what to scold. She could only turn to the side with a red face and no longer looked at Wang Sheng. The storm that had nearly caused a fight between the two sides was resolved with Wang Sheng's nod of approval. However, both sides secretly grew wary and no longer dared to reveal any flaws in their plans. Who is proficient in arrays? After reaching an agreement, Wang Sheng immediately resumed his leadership position and shouted. Immediately, a Song family disciple stood out. With a cultivation of 5th stage, he was considered to be the lowest among those who came in. Perhaps he came in because he was proficient in arrays. Along the way, pay attention to various kinds of terrain and see if it is suitable to set up a large array. Wang Sheng pointed out, especially defensive and concealment arrays. Don't consider offensive arrays for now. The array expert nodded and returned to the line. More than 20 people paid careful attention at the same time. The effect was obviously different from that of the 2 people Wang Sheng sent. Moreover, Song Yin and Wang Sheng no longer needed to sneak around, and their efficiency directly increased by several times. They dare not say that they would find it immediately, but at least Wang Sheng could eliminate some areas. Everyone had also discussed that to settle so many people, the most suitable place was a position that was easy to defend and difficult to attack. This position could not be too high, otherwise it would be attacked by flying demonic beasts. It could not be too low, because the climate in the ground of 1,000 extremities was changeable and there were frequent floods. If it was too low, it would be drowned. In short, the 2 principles were to be near mountains and rivers, convenient for replenishment. It was impossible to bring in all the food and water from the outside. Secondly, there must be a strong defensive terrain and a strong defensive array to be able to stand firm in the ground of 1,000 extremities. There was no need for Wang Sheng to think about such a place. The Song family would naturally figure it out. There were quite a few places on the small hills that they passed by, but Song Jiming kept shaking his head, always able to pick out some places that were not suitable and reject them. They had been circling this area for more than 10 days, adding up to almost a month, but the Song family still had no intention of turning back. Wang Sheng did not rush them. Anyway, when he had nothing to do, he would stick to Song Yin and let the Song family see a minister who was so infatuated with Song Yin that he did not know north from south. Song Yin became anxious again, but with Wang Sheng's reminder and cover, she cleverly hid her emotions and did not let anyone find out. On this day, everyone was advancing toward the small hill. The height of the hill was suitable for building a camp on the side of the cliff, so naturally they had to go over to take a look. When they were about 3 to 4 miles away from the hill, Wang Sheng's heart skipped a beat, and the little person with his battle awareness raised an alarm. Not only was it an alarm, but it was also an extremely dangerous one. However, it appeared suddenly, and by the time Wang Sheng sensed it, it seemed a little too late. There were alarms in all directions, and they were slowly closing in on the center. What kind of demon beast was this? It actually knew how to set up an ambush. It knew how to hide and find the right time to suddenly jump out from all directions. Looking at this kind of hunting posture, it should be a powerful pack of wolves. The problem was, what kind of wolf pack could make the little person with battle awareness raise an alarm that was almost to the highest level? Just as he was about to remind them, the Song family's array formation expert suddenly shouted, "Don't move." Everyone stopped and looked at the array formation expert. They watched as he probed a few times in the front, back, left, and right directions, and even took out an array stone and fiddled with it for some reason. Then, facing the direction they had just been moving in, he said with a face full of joy, "There's a very slight array formation fluctuation in that direction." Hearing this, everyone immediately became excited. Array formation fluctuation, what did this mean? Chapter 297. The formation stone in the formation master's bag was not an ordinary item. It was a special formation that the Song family had purchased from several formation masters not long ago at a high price. This formation was actually quite useless. It had no offensive, defensive, concealment, or restraining functions. It was completely useless to those who needed it in battle. Its only function was to amplify the fluctuations of the surrounding formation. Although this function could not help cultivators in battle, it was a very valuable item for formation masters. If one could amplify the fluctuations of the formation by a few times, the formation master could directly sense the fluctuations and determine the function of the formation, whether it was strong or weak, right or wrong, and so on. Such a formation did not exist 5 years ago. The first time it appeared was 3 years ago. It was the masterpiece of a formation grandmaster. He did not expect the Song family to know of such a new formation and spend a large sum of money to purchase a formation stone personally made by a formation master. It was this formation stone that the formation master of the Song family had discovered a clue. Ordinary formation masters would not have been able to detect the fluctuations of the formation, but after it was magnified more than 10 times, it was finally detected. The closer they got to the hill, the more intense the fluctuations of the formation became. With the formation expert announcing every few steps, everyone's heart suddenly became excited. The presence of a formation meant that someone was in charge of it. Even if there was no one, there was at least a formation that was still active in the depths of the land of 1,000 despair. If Wang Sheng hadn't come here to activate the formation, then who was the one who activated it? Was a monster? There were precedents of monsters activating a formation. When Song Yin was undergoing the clan's trial, the 2,000 illusion poisonous centipedes had activated the binding formation. However, someone had embedded the formation under the scales of the 1,000 illusion poisonous centipedes, and it could be activated with spiritual energy. Even if that was the case, who could have given the array stone to the demonic beast? At the end of the day, there were still traces of human presence. The rest of the Song family were excited, and so was Song Yin. The fluctuations of the formation meant that there were people here, and they were still in the area. Didn't that mean that her father and the others, everyone was excited, but there was one person who spoiled the fun. It was Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng stopped everyone in time. "What are you doing?" No matter what was on the other side, if they were hostile, wouldn't we be dead? This was the land of 1,000 despair, an unknown danger. Song Jith understood. He glanced at Wang Sheng and said disdainfully without thinking, If you're afraid, stand back. All right. Wang Sheng nodded without hesitation. He pulled Song Yin behind him to hide. Of course, Song Laoyu followed him to the back of the group. What are you doing? Song Yin couldn't shake off Wang Sheng's hand at all. She only managed to shake it off when she was at the very end of the line. She glared at Wang Sheng in displeasure, her eyes looking as if they were about to spit fire. It hadn't been easy for her to find a clue. She was just about to meet her father, but Wang Sheng was holding her back. How could Song Yin not be furious? I'm scared to death. Wang Sheng directly said this reason that other cultivators would never say. He didn't feel embarrassed at all. I'm more afraid of you dying. A burst of laughter came from the Song clan's group, seemingly mocking Wang Sheng's actions. She really couldn't tell that Wang Sheng was a person who was afraid of death. Song Yin stared at Wang Sheng angrily. Wang Sheng stared back at Song Yin without flinching. Finally, Song Yin's anger slowly subsided and her gaze softened. A person who dared to offend the 5 great clans and was chased by hundreds of people into the land of thousand despair said that he was afraid of death? What kind of joke was that? But Wang Sheng didn't care about losing face and said it out loud. He even said it in such a serious and loud voice. What did this mean? Only a ghost would believe that there was nothing wrong with this. Is there a ferocious, demonic beast up ahead? Song Yin softened her voice and asked apologetically. No. Wang Sheng directly shook his head. There was a warning of danger, but it was definitely not a ferocious, demonic beast. No matter how powerful a demonic beast was, it was impossible for them to cooperate so tacitly. Or is it a variety of dangerous insects? Song Yin asked again. In fact, it wasn't just Song Yin who wanted to know. Song Laoyu, Song Jiming, and the others were also idiots. Wang Sheng had displayed 100 times the premonition of danger along the way. Now that Wang Sheng was abnormally retreating, even Song Jiming and the others were nervous. No, Wang Sheng still shook his head. It's not that kind of danger. Hearing that it wasn't a demonic beast or the dangerous insects in the land of thousand despair, everyone immediately felt relieved. However, what kind of danger could make Wang Sheng hesitate to move forward? Then what are you afraid of? Song Yin asked in confusion. I don't know. Wang Sheng put on a pensive look and replied hesitantly. Some things that are hard to fathom. I don't know if it's dangerous. You don't even know what you're afraid of? Song Yin was so angry at Wang Sheng that she almost laughed. His answer was really too strange. It's because I don't know that I'm afraid, Wang Sheng said confidently. If I really know what it is, I'm actually not afraid. The people who were eavesdropping in front were stunned again. Suddenly, they began to understand Wang Sheng a little. It was really like this. The unknown was scary, and if they really knew the answer, it wouldn't be so scary anymore. Because they knew the opponent's weakness, knew the opponent's fatal point, and had a way to deal with it. There were no demonic beasts in this world that couldn't be dealt with. But if they didn't even know what it was, then they couldn't be sure of anything. It was inevitable that they would be worried. If that was the reason, everyone could understand, especially Song Jiming. Wang Sheng said that he couldn't tell what was ahead. This was simply helping him to make a judgment. Wang Sheng didn't know what their real purpose was, but how could Song Jiming not know? In front of them might really be the Song family head and the group of people who had been missing for more than 10 years. People, and only people, could not be predicted or judged by Wang Sheng. At the thought that he might be able to complete the task arranged by the first elder and the others soon, Song Jiming felt a burst of excitement. He was so excited that he almost exposed his hidden cultivation. In the end, Song Yin was still pulled to the back by Wang Sheng. No matter how anxious she was, she could only walk at the back. Wang Sheng's words in her ear reminded her that if it was really her father, what was the difference between the first and the last? But if it wasn't, then the first one to run into it and the last one in the team might be the difference between life and death. Chapter 298. Moving forward, there were no obstacles along the way. Song Jiming and the others in front also began to feel a little strange. If they were humans, why couldn't they find them at such a close distance? After all, Song Jiming and his party did not hide and swaggered to their door. The noise was so loud that it could be heard from a distance. There was no response from the other side, which was a little strange. They walked all the way to the foot of the mountain, but no one appeared. But the formation master of the Song family was so excited that he was about to jump up. He could vaguely feel the fluctuation of the formation here without the help of the formation stone. Their destination was nearby. After turning a call, they suddenly saw an open space. Song Jiming and the others directly looked at the scene over there and stopped. They stared blankly and could not say a word. Wang Sheng, Song Yin, and Song Laoyu followed behind and slowly turned around. When they saw the scene in front of them, Song Yin and Song Laoyu could not help but open their mouths wide. In front of them was a valley. The valley was not big and seemed to be well enclosed. More than 100 feet above the ground, there was a group of connected caves that could be seen from below. Obviously, this was a place where people lived. Or to be precise, it was a place where people used to live. But now, it seemed to have been abandoned for many years. There was a lot of moss and other things, and the vines of some plants had also grown and drooped. However, compared with the surrounding dense forest, this area seemed so new. Whether it was the growth of these plants or the marks left on the mountain walls, all of them indicated that there might have been people living here a few years ago. More than 100 feet above the ground was enough to make many powerful demonic beasts sigh. Those caves seemed to be just ventilation, and it was not easy for larger demonic beasts to get in. A little deeper into the cave, the existence of the gauze net could be seen from below. Needless to say, it must be used to resist insects. The formation master was the first to react. After checking around, he came to a conclusion. There used to be 2 defensive formations and a concealing formation here, but there has been no spiritual chi input for several years, so the formation is close to failure. Not long ago, they detected the amplified fluctuations of the array formation, which came from these few arrays. So far, everyone could conclude that this was once a campsite that had been inhabited. For some reason, it had been abandoned and turned into this desolate state. Everyone was in a daze for only a moment before they all came back to their senses. Under Song Jiming's command, they searched everywhere. After a while, someone found a hidden passage on the side of the mountain wall. The passageway was very well hidden and very sturdy. There was a stone door that was several feet thick. From the side, it didn't look like a door at all, but a large stone plug. It was stuffed at the entrance of the cave and fixed from the inside. No matter how powerful an expert was, they would not be able to open it. The concealment array formation was set up on the stone door, and it was about to lose its effectiveness. After entering, they could clearly see the tools of human life. However, they were all messy, and it was easy to tell that those people had left in a hurry. It was unknown what kind of disaster had forced those people to leave. They didn't even have the time to close the array formation. It was only now that the weak fluctuations of the array formation were discovered. In short, based on the current situation, this was a very suitable camp. It was enough to put down a few hundred people. The group of people checked up and down several times and didn't find a single figure, nor did they discover any other dangers. There were no demonic beasts or insects at all. It was an empty campsite. Song Jiming didn't participate in the search. Instead, he and the other 7th-stage realm experts looked at the middle of the valley. That place was obviously a piece of flat land. From the surrounding traces, it was obviously a martial arts training ground. However, this ground was also covered with various weeds and moss, looking extremely desolate. Looks like this place isn't bad. Wang Sheng stood at the back and opened his mouth. Right from the start, Wang Sheng pulled Song Yin and didn't move. He didn't participate in the search in the cave, nor did he follow Song Jiming and the others to check the valley. He just stood there and watched them work hard. It's indeed not bad. Song Jiming nodded his head in agreement. To tell the truth, this place was really a suitable campsite. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. There was also a piece of open land and a small river below. Moreover, there was a hidden canal in the campsite. If a few hundred people lived here, if they brought enough food and hunted along the way, they could live for a few years or even forever without a problem. Then, does this mean that we can return? Wang Sheng was a little unsociable as he raised a suggestion which made others despise him. After raising it, Wang Sheng seemed to have realized something as he added, "Of course, you can leave a portion of people here to guard and wait for the next batch of people to come in." While speaking, Wang Sheng had been holding Song Yan's hand as he leaned his back against a piece of sturdy rock wall, diagonally facing the valley. The little person with battle awareness had already told him very clearly that everyone here had been surrounded. This position allowed Wang Sheng and Song Yan not to worry about their back. They only needed to take care of the front. It was a very dangerous feeling. With Song Jiming and the others' cultivation, they actually didn't notice that they were surrounded at all. How terrifying were the enemies that surrounded them? Perhaps it was Song Yan's father and the Song family's elite experts, but who knew if they would go crazy from being discovered? Therefore, staying with Song Yan at all times was the safest way. Son-in-law, if you're willing to join our Song clan, we'll report this to the Grand Elder when we get out this time. He'll make the decision for you to marry the eldest young Mississippi. Song Jiming was completely unaware of the incoming danger and was still trying to rope Wang Sheng in. Here, one more Wang Sheng was definitely equivalent to doubling their combat strength. Without Wang Sheng, at least half of them wouldn't be able to make it here. Even if they knew that there was such a place after leaving, without Wang Sheng, the chances of them coming in again to find their destination was less than 10%. The voice reached the hidden forest. An expert hiding in the forest was instantly enraged. He snorted coldly in his heart. "You want to marry my daughter? Dream on." No one noticed the movement here. Everyone's attention was on Wang Sheng. "We agreed that when we find a suitable place, we will return, and then you will agree to marry little Yan to me." Wang Sheng directly raised his finger and shook it. "It's only been a few days, and you've already changed your mind. Isn't it a little too fast? You can't really be that naive, can you?" Song Jiming laughed. "You're a person from Carefree City. How can you believe such words? So, you're actually using little Yan as a tool to give to whoever you want, right?" Wang Sheng asked maliciously. "In the past, you wanted to give little Yan to Dai Huan, but failed, so now you're using little Yan to lure me. After the matter is done, you won't admit it? Then who do you want to give little Yan to next time?" Chapter 299. Eldest Miss is the eldest daughter of the Song family. Of course, she has to do things for the Song family. Song Jiming had no idea what kind of death trap was hidden in Wang Sheng's words. He sneered as if it was only natural. At this point, if he still couldn't control Wang Sheng, everything he had done before would be meaningless, and the plan couldn't be carried out as usual. Therefore, he had to control Wang Sheng no matter what. The way to control him was very simple. He only needed to control Wang Sheng and then use a special poisonous elixir. If he told this to Wang Sheng would definitely ask him, "Did you use the 3 corpse brain elixir or the life-death note? Did it work well?" Alas, if he wants to die, we can't stop him. Looking at Song Jiming's unmistakable arrogance, Wang Sheng shook his head and sighed. "Have you forgotten the first rule of entering the land of 1,000 devastations?" The first rule, which was also the only rule that Wang Sheng called an iron rule, was not to do anything that Wang Sheng didn't want to do. This was not only the rule of the Song family, but also the iron impression left by many people who didn't believe it, who had risked their lives or been seriously injured or poisoned. Everyone was standing here. If Wang Sheng told them not to move, no one knew how many people would dare to move. Even though everyone had already sided with Song Yan once before, when Wang Sheng stood up for Song Yan, many people still felt their hearts beating like drums. Song Jiming's face darkened. He was most afraid that Wang Sheng wouldn't be able to control him. Now, things had probably reached the point that he didn't want to see. Wang Sheng was standing at the back of the group, together with Song Yan and Old Yu. If he really ran away, all the people present together might not be able to catch up with him. This was the land of 1,000 devastations, not the outside world. If they couldn't catch up with him, they could only destroy Wang Sheng. Although Wang Sheng was several feet away from them, if Song Jiming really made a move, his body might not be able to catch up with Wang Sheng, but hidden weapons would definitely not be a problem. Just a mere 3rd stage realm cultivator. Not to mention Song Jiming taking action personally, any random 7th stage realm cultivator in the team would be enough to kill Wang Sheng. However, It would appear that Wang Sheng had no intention of running. Wang Sheng had his back pressed against the mountain wall. Song Yin and Song Laoyu stood on his left and right. Even if Wang Sheng wanted to run, it would be impossible for him to do so quickly. As long as they could kill Wang Sheng when he tried to escape, this threat was enough. If he could successfully control Wang Sheng, this trip to the land of thousand extremities could be considered a complete victory. As for what the worry-free city and the other families thought after they left, that was their own business. In any case, Wang Sheng was Song Yan's fiancé. This time, he had come over to get married and officially become a member of the Song family. Who could say anything about it? Don't get lucky. Song Jiming laughed and said to Wang Sheng with a hint of persuasion, "What you said before was right. We all have to abide by your first iron rule. But now that we're here, we have a safe place to hide, and we've learned so much from you. As long as we don't go out, we can live here safely for half a year to a year. I forgot to tell you, we brought enough food for everyone before we set off. There's no shortage of water here. Believe me, even without you, we can live well." Song Jiming's tone was sincere and earnest. What about a year later? Wang Sheng wouldn't be fooled by his words and asked with a smile. "A year is enough for us to learn a lot," Song Jiming said confidently. "Besides, when we've settled down and sent a signal, Great Elder will send someone to open up the Song family's path. I've been paying attention on the way here. It's only 200 miles away from the Song family. It's not far. Have you calculated how many people will die on this road?" Wang Sheng sneered disdainfully. "A lot of people will die, but it's all thanks to you." Song Jiming didn't care about the dead at all and directly put the blame on Wang Sheng. "You also know that there are many people in the Song family who are as loyal to the patriarch as this stinky fish. If we kill them openly, it won't sound good. But if they voluntarily open up the route to the land of thousand despair." Before Song Jiming could finish his words, Song Yin, who was next to him, couldn't help but curse with a pale face. Shameless. How could it be? Song Jiming looked at Song Yin, and Song Laoyu's face is getting worse and worse. Even Wang Sheng clearly showed an expression of guilt. He couldn't help but feel proud. The family will remember their contributions. There will always be their memorial tablets in the memorial hall. We will worship them every year. Their descendants will get enough status and glory because of their contributions. Every family has people who sacrifice for the family, don't they? Song Yin had experienced depression, had experienced being plotted against, and plotted against by others, and had even almost been plotted to death by the family. But even so, she only felt that whoever was targeted was targeted. She had never thought that such cruel methods could be used against some unrelated people. Miss Song, who had witnessed all of this with her own eyes, was trembling slightly at this moment. With no other choice, Wang Sheng could only reach out and hold Song Yan's small waist. He used a little force to stop her from trembling like before. At this moment, Song Yan's eyes revealed a completely different kind of sharpness from before. There had never been a moment when Song Yan wanted to kill all these people who claimed to be from the Song family, but were thinking of ways to harm the Song family. Wang Sheng was enjoying himself. Song Yan's small waist was really as Song Yan had said. Not only was it slender, but it was also very elastic. Women who cultivated were full of strength, and it was indescribably comfortable to hold. What do you think? Song Jiming and the others stood not far from Wang Sheng. They clearly saw what Wang Sheng was doing. Song Jiming even smiled and said, "Think about it. Do you want to agree now and fly away with Miss Song? Or do you want to die here?" "I suddenly don't want to die." Wang Sheng had an indescribable feeling of holding a beauty in his arms. He said without thinking, "But that doesn't mean I agree with what you're doing. A wise man submits to circumstances." Song Jiming and the others all smiled. It was all too easy to deal with a young man who was bewitched by beauty. Song Yin suddenly struggled, but Wang Sheng's big hand held her waist. She struggled a little, but after feeling Wang Sheng pinching her a few times, she consciously calmed down. Wang Sheng's big hand always gave her a sense of security. "But I'm afraid someone will stop you from doing what you want to do," Wang Sheng said, looking at Song Jiming, who thought that victory was in his grasp. "Who?" Song Jiming asked with a cold smile. "Me." A voice came from the darkness of the dense forest and reached everyone's ears. Chapter 300. Who is it? Song Jiming was shocked. The members of the Song family all looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone instantly took out their weapons and pointed at the place where the sound came from. Song Jiming was really frightened. What was this place? This was the land of despair. Apart from Wang Sheng, he had never heard of anyone else who could live freely in the land of despair, let alone follow them. Along the way, Song Jiming could be said to be very careful. He checked the front and back, left and right, and there was no one following them at all. It was not easy to hide from his eyes and ears, and to hide from the eyes and ears of so many people. However, Song Jiming did not think that it was an auditory hallucination just because he felt that it was impossible. He stared at the dark place in the dense forest with his hands hanging down. If something went wrong, he could take out his unique 3-leaf flying knife from his storage ring at any time and throw it out. With a very soft sound of branches and leaves being pushed aside, a person slowly walked out from the direction where the sound had just been made. It was a middle-aged man who seemed to be only about 40 years old. However, Wang Sheng was sure that he was definitely over 50 years old. His age only made him look young because of his extremely high cultivation. The middle-aged man walked at a pace that was neither fast nor slow. However, he was always calm and unruffled. It was impossible to tell that he had come out from the dense forest at all. When he walked, the middle-aged man naturally exuded a kind of graceful and luxurious aura. It was the aura of a leader that could only be cultivated by someone who had been in a high position for a long time. Although Song Jiming had been giving orders all the way, he did not have even the slightest bit of this kind of aura. On the contrary, the elders of the Song family did not seem to have a higher cultivation than Song Jiming, but each of them had a similar aura. When the middle-aged man walked out, his face was frosty, and his whole body's displeasure was almost written all over his face. However, the moment he walked out, all Wang Sheng heard was the sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air. All he felt was the beautiful woman beside him trembling once again. Lord Clan Leader. Song Jiming could hardly believe his eyes. In his excitement, he had already unconsciously called out, not realizing that he had actually begun to stutter. As for the others, they all looked as if they had seen a ghost. They stared at the Lord Clan Leader who had walked out, their faces full of disbelief. Who would have thought that the Lord Patriarch, whom they thought had been missing for many years and should have been dead beyond belief, would actually appear in front of them, alive and well? Song Yin was completely unable to control her body's trembling. The sudden excitement made her unable to support her body any longer. She leaned weakly against Wang Sheng. She had been taken advantage of by Wang Sheng. However, at this moment, Song Yin could no longer care about the people around her. Her eyes were filled with tears as she stared at Song Yin. The head of the Song family, Song Hongda, ignored Song Jiming's form of address. His eyes were fixed on his daughter, who was leaning on Wang Sheng. Clan Song, he said before, Yang Feng, Song, Shi Yin as well Song. Yin Song, Song as he as, Yin Song, he as, Yin Shun, Song as Yin. Song Yin of Yin Yang, she not I Song, he she Yin he from. She, if I let go, little Yin won't be able to stand. Wang Sheng did not show any signs of letting go, but he replied without the slightest nervousness. Others would naturally tremble in fear when they saw the Lord Clan Leader, but Wang Sheng was not a member of the Song clan. He did not have the concept of hierarchy that had been instilled in him since he was young, so he behaved very naturally. Of course, Wang Sheng had no intention of paying respects to Lord Mount Tai, nor did he have to lower his head. Father, Song Yin finally called out. Her body had also recovered its strength. She straightened her body and looked at the approaching voice in a daze. Song Yin had been holding back her tears ever since she'd called out, Father. Finally, there was nothing holding her back. Her tears broke through her eyelids and flowed down her beautiful face. At this moment, all the grievances, schemes, oppression, and plots she had suffered since her father's disappearance seemed to have found a way to vent. All the bitterness gushed out along with Song Yan's tears. Then, Song Yan rushed into Song Honda's arms and hugged her father tightly. It was as if she was afraid that everything she had just seen and heard was fake. She was afraid that Song Honda would fly away in the next moment. She hugged him tightly, not wanting to let go at all. Song Honda's face was full of guilt. He looked kindly at Song Yan, who had grown up. He reached out and stroked her long, soft hair, which Wang Sheng had taken care of even in the land of 1,000 despair. His heart was also bursting with joy. It's been hard on you. When Song Honda first saw Song Yan, he almost could not suppress the urge to come out. When he left, Song Yan was only a few years old. Now, she was already a young lady in her 20s. She still looked like a child, but she had already become a beautiful and valiant young lady. When I left, I told him to take good care of you. Song Honda's voice was so gentle that it was frightening. As he stroked Song Yan's long, soft hair, he asked softly, I left you a 9-star origin spirit. What realm have you cultivated to? 9-star origin spirit? Song Yan was stunned and her body stiffened. Her father left when she was very young, but the elders had never mentioned that her father had left her a 9-star origin spirit. What happened? Song Honda felt Song Yan's body stiffen and immediately realized that something was wrong. He gently helped Song Yan to stand in front of him and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Eldest Miss used the origin spirit tablet that the elders brought over and fused with a 6-star frost turtle. The one who answered was not Song Yan, but Old Song. She reported to the clan leader in an orderly manner. It was indeed left behind by clan leader, but the origin spirit in it has been swapped. Good, good. When Song Honda heard this answer, the anger in that instant almost rushed out of his skull. Everyone could hear the monstrous anger contained in the word good. After Song Honda came out, Song Jiming and the others did not dare to speak casually. After so many years of the clan leader's majesty, coupled with the fact that each of them was locked on by at least 20 extremely powerful killing intent, they had to get Song Honda's approval to speak. Ha ha! When the intense anger reached its peak, Song Honda could only let out a laugh. But when Song Jiming and the others heard Song Honda's laughter, their faces all turned ashen. I only left for a few years, and even my daughter dares to bully like this. It seems that what I did in the past was indeed a bit merciful. After Song Honda laughed wildly, he suddenly stopped and slowly turned his face to Song Jiming and the others. He said word by word, all of you must die. Chapter 301. Song Jiming clenched his hands. At this moment, he was not as afraid as before. Seeing Song Honda appear, Song Jiming indeed felt guilty. Song Jiming looked young, 26 or 27 years old, but his real age was close to 40. In other words, when Song Honda left with a group of elites, Song Jiming was just a young lad in his 20s. And according to Song Honda's standards, it was obvious that Song Jiming was not even an elite in his mind. However, Song Jiming was able to cultivate from 3rd stage realm cultivation to 8th stage realm in 10 years after Song Honda left, so he was quite confident. It was probably not a problem of cultivation that year, even if his cultivation was raised by some kind of unique array and a large number of drugs that even Song Jiming himself did not know about. The biggest possibility was loyalty or the problem of who he relied on. These were not what Song Jiming was concerned about. But Song Jiming still remembered Song Honda's despotic power in the Song family. The moment he thought of how he cooperated with the elders to overthrow the butler left by Song Honda, replaced Song Yan's primordial soul, and even cleaned up Song Honda's forces and even tried to kill Song Yan, Song Jiming felt his liver tremble when he faced Song Honda. Guilty conscience, fear, perhaps there was still a trace of wishful thinking. Perhaps Song Honda would spare his life on account of his cultivation. After all, an 8th-stage realm expert was still worth roping in. But after hearing Song Honda's words that everyone was going to die, Song Jiming's last bit of wishful thinking disappeared. Since he was going to die, he was not afraid at this time. Instead, he was calm. At most, it would be a life and death struggle. He was an 8th-stage realm expert, facing an outdated clan leader and more than 10 experts. Could it be that he did not have the strength to fight back? Not to mention that he still had a chance to escape. Even if he died, Song Jiming was confident that he would not lose out. How many of the hundreds of people that Song Honda brought out could survive in the Thousand Despair? One dead, one less. It depended on whether they dared to fight with him. Until now, Song Jiming felt that Song Honda had at most 20 experts around him. After all, other than the 10 over-experts who had to hold him back, the others also needed someone to watch over them. However, just as he was about to make a move, the scene in front of him suddenly made him scared out of his wits. Dozens of people quietly appeared from the forest. They appeared silently. These people didn't even chop the vines blocking their way. They just used the vines to cross the obstacles. Each of them was as light as a swallow, and their movements were vigorous. It was as if they had lived in the forest for who knew how long. Wang Sheng almost shouted for Tarzan. Fortunately, these guys were all wearing clothes and not just a pair of underpants. Wang Sheng could guess that these people were definitely the elites who had left with Song Honda back then, but he really didn't know any of them. However, this did not prevent Wang Sheng from determining the strength of these people from some clues. Only a few dozen people emerged from the forest, but on both sides of the mountain peaks and the cliffs, there were hundreds of them. If it was just the number of people, perhaps Song Jiming wouldn't be worried. But these fellows who appeared were all at least in the 7th stage realm, which made him feel hopeless. Want to fight? Song Honda took a glance and seemed to have seen through Song Jiming's strength. Not to mention that you're an 8th-stage realm expert who relied on crooked methods to advance. Even if you're a real 8th-stage realm expert, once you enter the grounds of Thousand Despair, you can at most exert the strength of a 7th-stage realm. Wang Xing knew about this. The suppression effect in the grounds of Thousand Despair was mentioned by that old monster from the royal family. Seeing hundreds of peerless experts appearing, Wang Xing suddenly understood why Song Honda had brought a large number of Song family's elites to leave the Song family and enter the grounds of Thousand Despair. He must have found a way in a safe place to raise the cultivation of the Song family's disciples, which was why he made such a decision. Even if he had transferred the Song family's elites, causing the Song family to be weak for a long period of time and be bullied by other families, but when he returned, the whole world would probably submit to him. Song Jiming was really in despair. Not only Song Jiming, other than Song Yin and Song Laoyu, all the Song family's disciples who had followed Wang Sheng into the grounds of Thousand Despair were in despair. If they had known this would happen, they would not have hesitated to stand on eldest young Mrs. side when they confronted Song Yin. Unfortunately, it was too late to say anything now. The only lucky one was actually Wang Sheng, who was not a member of the Song family. The strange thing was, although Song Honda had said that he wanted them dead, no one of the scene made move. Even Song Honda had no intention to urge them. At this moment, other than Song Honda's anger at the Song family's bullying of his daughter, he was also angry at another person, and that was Wang Sheng. Along the way, Song Honda and the others had been secretly watching the entire team. They were the first alarm that Wang Sheng had sensed. On the way, Wang Sheng had been taking advantage of Song Yin, taking advantage of her. He either took the opportunity to hold her little hand, or took the opportunity to hug her slender waist. Even when Song Honda appeared, Wang Sheng had hugged Song Yin in his arms. It would be strange if Song Honda could tolerate such frivolity in front of a father, especially when he heard that Wang Sheng had asked Song Jiming and the others to fulfill their promise to let Song Yin marry him. Wang Sheng was immediately identified by Song Honda as a villain who coveted his daughter's beauty and took the opportunity to seize her. A junior who was at most in the 3rd-degree realm dared to covet his outstanding beauty? What kind of joke was that? Song Honda had returned, and Song Yan's status was even more noble than the current princess. How could a villain hope to catch up to her? To put it bluntly, a toad dared to covet a swan's meat? Was he worthy? However, although he was angry, Wang Sheng had unhesitatingly stood on Song Yan's side. Some of the words were even said by Song Jiming because of Wang Sheng. Song Honda had no choice but to consider this point. On account that you've protected little Yin all the way, I'll give you a chance. Song Honda didn't even look at Song Jiming and the others as he directly turned to face Wang Sheng. Join the Song family. With your cultivation, I'll give you a small manor for you to manage. You won't have to worry about food or clothing. In the future, stay far away from little Yin and don't let her see you again. No. Wang Sheng directly shook his head and cleanly rejected Song Hongda's good intentions. Song Yin and Song Laoyu could already tell that something was wrong. But at this moment, it was obvious that their words didn't carry much weight. I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. Song Hongda sneered. You're courting death. Chapter 302. Don't. Song Yin screamed and stopped Song Hongda. Father, you've misunderstood. Song Yin was closest to Song Hongda and keenly sensed Song Hongda's murderous intent. Song Yin was shocked. She didn't want to see Wang Sheng killed. I believe my eyes. Song Hongda was so enraged that not even his own daughter, Song Yin, could stop him. Moreover, seeing is believing. He had seen Wang Sheng take advantage of Song Yin with his own eyes. He had even tried to take advantage of Song Yin to force his precious daughter to marry him. This kind of person cannot be a good person, so killing him was not a big deal. Song Laoyu wanted to interrupt, but before he could open his mouth, Song Hongda's gaze swept over him. Laoyu, shut up. Seeing this, Wang Sheng smiled bitterly in his heart. It seemed that the misunderstanding had been confirmed. He didn't even give me a chance to explain. Just as Wang Sheng was thinking about this, Song Hongda said, I'll give you a chance since you've taken care of my daughter along the way. Song Yan's heart skipped a beat, and her face lit up with joy. Giving him a chance was equivalent to sparing Wang Sheng's life. As long as Wang Sheng feigned civility and nodded his head in agreement, the worst that could happen was that Song Hongda would just leave. In any case, as long as Wang Sheng entered the lands of Thousand Extremities, Song Hongda would not be able to do anything to him due to the rules. Thinking up to this point, Song Yin hurriedly shot Wang Sheng a look, indicating for him to give in and get through this hurdle first. Wang Sheng saw the look in Song Yan's eyes. It wasn't just Wang Sheng. Song Laoyu and the dozen or so Song family experts led by Song Hongda also saw it. However, they remained expressionless and stood there motionlessly, seeking death. Song Yin didn't have any hope. Wang Sheng didn't seem afraid at all. He said to Song Hongda, You're right. If you really dare to let me join the Song clan, your Song clan will be the public enemy of the world once we leave the grounds of Thousand Despair. Song Hongda was infuriated. He had been training and cultivating in the land of Thousand Extremities with his elite troops, so he had no idea what was going on outside. He had no idea what Wang Sheng meant to the major powers. All he knew was that Wang Sheng was a wretch who coveted Song Yan's beauty. Since he was a little bastard, of course he had the power to decide his life and death. How could they let him overturn the heavens? Since when did a third-degree realm lad dare to boast shamelessly that he was responsible for the safety of the world? If he were to be intimidated by Wang Sheng, how could he, the Song family's patriarch, raise his head in the future? Ha ha ha! Song Hongda laughed out loud again. After laughing, he sneered, Ignorant junior, you talk big. How boring. Wang Sheng waved his hand, not bothering to say anything more to Song Hongda. In front of Song Yin, it was not good to mock and ridicule him, so Wang Sheng could only mutter in his heart, ignorant and self-righteous. For someone with such a character to become the patriarch, it was really strange. He was even more arrogant and self-opinionated than Dai Huan, yet he was still alive. No wonder the Song family could still be ranked as one of the 5 major families, even without a patriarch. Those elders had indeed played a huge role. Song Hongda didn't know, but Song Yin and Song Laoyu were as clear as a mirror. Wang Sheng's words weren't wrong at all. If they really forced Wang Sheng to join the Song clan, the Song clan would definitely become public enemy number 1. Father, Wang Sheng is... Just as she said these few words, Song Yin felt a warm current rushing into her body. That warm current was so strong that it instantly spread throughout her body. After being hit by this warm current, Song Yin was unable to say a single word. Song Yin panicked and was about to struggle, but that warm current seemed to have a life of its own, directly restricting Song Yan's ability to move. The only person who could do this was Song Honda, who was still holding on to Song Yan. Song Yan was shocked, but she could do nothing about it. She couldn't move, nor could she speak, so she was so anxious that she almost cried. Song Honda was indeed infuriated by Wang Sheng's words, but Song Honda was absolutely not that kind of stupid person that Wang Sheng had imagined. While he was laughing maniacally, his gaze had already swept towards Song Jiming and the others. Song Jiming and the others who knew that they were going to die stood there without moving. Song Jiming's face faintly surfaced a gloating expression. Just this expression made Song Honda realize that what this kid in front of him said might not be just wild words. Otherwise, Song Jiming would not be so willing to see him suffer misfortune in future. What kind of person was Song Honda? He had always been the one giving orders, and he had always been the one deciding the life and death of others. So why would he allow others to threaten him? Not to mention a mere third-stage realm Wang Sheng. Even if it was an 8th-stage realm Song Jiming, wouldn't he be able to kill him just like that? Did you really think that just because I said I'll give you a chance, I'll let you go through with it? Song Honda laughed coldly. If others could easily guess the thoughts of an ambitious and ruthless person, would he still be an ambitious and ruthless person? If they took in Wang Sheng, they would become the public enemy. So if they killed Wang Sheng, would they become the public enemy as well? A chance to live. Song Honda didn't change his tone. The few of you also have a chance, but there are so many of you, so there's only one, so it'll depend on which one of you is luckier. Whoever kills this kid face to face can live. Song Honda told Song Jiming and the others what he meant, then turned towards Wang Sheng's side. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Out of all the people here, you can choose anyone. As long as you don't die in his hands, you can leave this place alive. I choose eldest young Miss Song. The minute Song Honda's words landed, Wang Sheng swiftly reported his choice of opponent. Since Song Yin was willing to plead for mercy for Wang Sheng, then she would definitely be willing to let Wang Sheng go. Just now, Song Yin stopped speaking halfway through her words. Even a fool could tell that she was being controlled by Song Honda. Now, of course, Wang Sheng wouldn't let go of this opportunity. To be honest, it wasn't a good idea to fall out with the head of the Song family on the spot. When Song Honda heard Wang Sheng's choice, he snorted, not hiding his disdain at all. Fine. A villain was a villain after all. He could even make such a despicable choice. Instead of that, he might as well just kneel down and kowtow and spare his life. However, little Yin and I have just reunited today. It's a joyous day, and little Yin shouldn't be stained with blood. Song Honda gave Wang Sheng a seemingly kind smile. I feel sorry for my daughter, so I've decided to accept her choice on her behalf and fight on her behalf. It's not surprising that a guilty father who hasn't seen his daughter for more than 10 years would make such a decision, is it? Song Yin was so anxious that she was about to cry, but there was nothing she could do. She could only stare at Wang Sheng anxiously, her eyes even carrying a hint of pleading, hoping that Wang Sheng would give in. Not all. Wang Sheng smiled and shook his head. After laughing, he also became fierce. Damn it, if a tiger doesn't show its might, you'll all think I'm a sick cat. How dare you try to be ruthless with me in the land of thousand despair? I have to say, you guys really have guts. Chapter 303. The moment Wang Sheng made his move, Song Laoyu and Song Jiming, who were not far away, took a big step back at the same time. What made people speechless was that when they took this step back, it was a kind of subconscious action. There was no deliberate control at all, as if this was an instinct that had been engraved in their bodies. It wasn't until after taking a step back that everyone seemed to realize that something was wrong and hurriedly stopped their footsteps. Song Laoyu smiled bitterly in her heart. Wang Sheng's absolute advantage in the place of thousand despair had actually made everyone have this kind of undefeatable intuition. So much so that Wang Sheng had just said a ruthless sentence, and everyone behaved like this. Of course, Song Honda and his subordinates didn't have the chance to see how powerful Wang Sheng was in the place of thousand despair. But Song Honda was able to become the clan leader at this age and suppress many elders. Even if he disappeared for more than 10 years, those elders didn't dare to abolish the clan leader and choose another one. How could it be easy? Seeing that just one sentence from Wang Sheng could make the disciples of the Song family so terrified, Song Honda's heart also jumped. Wang Sheng was definitely the real deal. Otherwise, Song Jiming and the others would never behave like this. An expert who looked like a bodyguard beside Song Honda casually gave a look to one of his subordinates. Immediately, an expert who surrounded Song Jiming and the group of people immediately swayed and flew up, dancing in joy, towards Wang Sheng. Even if Song Honda was willing to take action himself, these people around him would never let him do it. Just based on the prestige of Wang Sheng's words just now, these people would definitely separate Wang Sheng and Song Honda by at least 3 experts. Wang Sheng stood on the spot, watching the guy who was dancing in joy fly over. He could see very clearly that this guy was a 5th stage realm expert. However, a 5th stage realm expert was just the weakest in the entire team. Perhaps Song Honda's subordinates still had their own pride as experts and didn't really want to bully the weak, so they specially chose the one with the lowest cultivation for Wang Sheng. But even so, Wang Sheng, a junior who looked like he was only at the peak of the 3rd stage realm, against a 5th stage realm expert, the result could be imagined. The expert who flew out obviously realized that he had become the lucky one who was chosen. Just now, Song Honda had said that whoever killed Wang Sheng could live. This was an opportunity. Still in the air, the expert had already gotten rid of the involuntary feeling of being thrown out. He straightened his waist and had already controlled his balance. Taking advantage of the momentum of the expert being thrown out, he looked down and threw a punch at Wang Sheng. A disdainful smile flashed across Wang Sheng's face. Without moving, he clenched his right hand into a fist and punched out to meet the Song family's fist. No matter how strong his spiritual chi cultivation was, it was impossible to succeed in such a short period of time. Moreover, Wang Sheng's cultivation realm was far from the 3rd stage realm peak, which everyone saw. No matter how strong his spiritual chi cultivation was, it was impossible for him to succeed in such a short period of time. Moreover, Wang Sheng's cultivation realm was far from the 3rd stage realm peak, which everyone saw. Of course, everyone subconsciously thought that this was the sound of Wang Sheng's hand and fingers being broken, and the next moment, it should be the scene of Wang Sheng crying out miserably and vomiting blood due to his heavy injury. Of course, everyone subconsciously thought that this was the sound of Wang Sheng's hand and fingers being broken, and the next moment, it should be the scene of Wang Sheng crying out miserably and vomiting blood due to his serious injury. 5th stage realm against 3rd stage realm. This was the only possibility. This was common sense. This was how it should be. This was a fact which no one could change. But the truth was not like this. The one who cried out miserably was the 5th stage realm Song family's disciple who they thought had the absolute upper hand. The one who had his finger broken was also him. The miserable shriek was even more exaggerated than the speed at which he flew over, drifting further and further away in the air. The flying figure crashed heavily into the mountain wall, which was over 100 feet away. Bam! His entire body was stuck to the mountain wall like a piece of paper and then bounced back, landing flat on the ground. The moment he crashed into the mountain wall, he had already lost consciousness. Even when he landed on the ground, he didn't move at all. They could only see that because his nose had directly smashed onto the ground, the plants on the ground were rapidly dyed red by his blood. The Song family stared dumbfoundedly at this scene, totally unable to understand what had happened. A 3rd stage realm junior, even if he was at the peak of 3rd stage realm, compared to a 5th stage realm expert, it was an absolutely crushing difference. But why was it that the 5th stage realm expert was sent flying while the 3rd stage realm Wang Sheng was actually completely fine? Wang Sheng shook his head slightly. His skills as compared to the old Taoist Ling, Su, was still lacking by quite a bit. That punch earlier looked firm and yang, but in actual fact, it contained Taiji's counterattack and could be said to be the most orthodox Taiji strength. However, the old Taoist could flatten a person with one slap, but Wang Sheng could only do this. The difference in cultivation was not something which could be made up for with strength alone. Overestimating your own capabilities. Wang Sheng spat out these words in a low voice. Even though it was so arrogant and comical for a third-stage realm junior to say these words in front of a group of experts, but no one could refute it. A fifth-stage realm expert couldn't even take a punch from him. Perhaps there were many among them who could do this, but whose cultivation realm wasn't at the seventh-stage realm. For them to be able to do this when they were in the third-stage realm was even harder than ascending to heaven. Looking at Song Jiming and the rest's astonished faces, Wang Sheng laughed coldly. Song Jiming, I've tolerated you for a long time. The moment he spoke, Wang Sheng didn't just provoke one person, but a group of people. Other than Wang Sheng himself, Song Yin, Song Laoyu, and the one who fainted just now, there were at least 20 people who followed Wang Sheng into the place of thousand despair. If it wasn't for eldest Miss Song, all of you would have died on the way. Song Jiming was furious when he heard that. If the situation wasn't controlled by Song Hongda, Song Jiming would have made a move long ago. As an 8th-stage realm expert from the Song family, pretending to be a 7th-stage realm expert already made him feel depressed. Now that Wang Sheng actually dared to provoke him at this time, how could he not tolerate it? In that case, you're planning to choose Song Jiming? Song Hongda sneered and opened his mouth after Wang Sheng had just finished provoking him. Song Hongda admitted that he had misjudged him earlier. This unremarkable third-stage realm junior really had a valiant and fearless fierceness, and also had the ability to protect himself. But this couldn't be the reason for him to let Wang Sheng off. The more powerful and evildoer Wang Sheng's performance was, the more Song Hongda needed to get rid of him. Not to mention other things. Just based on Wang Sheng's influence on Song Yin, Song Hongda had no choice but to consider cutting off Wang Sheng's influence in a swift and decisive manner. Otherwise, he would probably lose his daughter who he had just met. Chapter 304. Wang Sheng turned to look at Song Hongda, a playful smile on his face. There was a look of disdain in his eyes. Just now, he had clearly said that he would fight in Song Yan's place. However, one of his subordinates, claiming to have taken the initiative to throw him one. Seeing that he had failed to achieve his goal, he immediately used his provocative words to change the target to Song Jiming. Song Hongda, on the other hand, had no intention of fighting. In front of so many of his subordinates, as well as Song Jiming and the others, Song Hongda could be so brazen and shameless. He was indeed an ambitious person. Actually, you don't need to control Song Yin. Wang Sheng didn't provoke Song Hongda this time. He changed the way he addressed her from Little Yin to Song Yin. Let her go. Don't let her look down on you. The weight of this sentence was extremely heavy. Song Hongda's expression also changed slightly. In the end, he didn't say anything more and let go of Song Yin. As soon as Song Hongda's hand left Song Yan's arm, Song Yin immediately found that the heat controlling her body had disappeared. She could move and speak freely. However, before Song Yin could say anything, Wang Sheng had already asked, Song Yin, do you still keep your promise? How dare you? Song Hongda's expression changed. The two Song family experts beside him immediately shouted. From Song Hongda to Song Jiming and the others, everyone thought that Wang Sheng was forcing Song Yin to fulfill her promise and marry Wang Sheng. Song Hongda was so angry that his face turned red. He couldn't help but attack. Don't worry, of course I keep my promise. Song Yan's timely interjection caused everyone's heart to skip a beat. Since young Miss Song had personally agreed to it, it was impossible for anyone to refuse. Unless they killed Wang Sheng now, young Miss Song would bear the reputation of being a traitor. She would never be able to lift her head again. Fortunately, there were no outsiders here. Little Yin, Song Hongda, was also shocked. If his daughter was forced to marry such a scoundrel, he would kill Wang Sheng even if he had to be shameless in front of all his subordinates to stop Song Yan's foolish thoughts. I'll definitely tell you what I promised to tell you. Song Yin ignored the crowd's reactions and finished her sentence on her own. At this point, Song Yin had no idea how to reconcile the relationship between Wang Sheng and Song Hongda. She could only give a specific answer to this question. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Song Hongda's face was burning. He had really misunderstood Wang Sheng. Originally, he had thought that Wang Sheng was forcing Song Yin to marry him. He hadn't expected that Song Yin would only agree to tell Wang Sheng a few things. She had played the villain in vain. In fact, it was the first time Song Hongda had seen and spoken to his daughter in more than 10 years that had caused his mind to be in turmoil. In addition, Wang Sheng and Song Jiming's previous conversation was clearly to force Song Yin to marry Wang Sheng, which was why he had made that kind of judgment and action. Now that Wang Sheng didn't have that kind of plan, Song Hongda suddenly felt that he had done something wrong. There were some things that he hadn't grasped. This was probably his biggest mistake since he had appeared today. But now that things had come to this, as the head of the Song family, he couldn't lower his head and apologize. Amir Wang Sheng didn't have that kind of face. When Wang Sheng knew Song Yan's character, although he said he was asking Song Yan this question, he was looking at Song Hongda. The trace of mockery in his eyes made Song Hongda feel very uncomfortable. But he couldn't lose his temper now. He could only suppress his anger and reply to Wang Sheng. When you can survive their hands, little Yin will fulfill her promise. I want to take Song Yin away and interrogate her alone. Wang Sheng stared into Song Hongda's eyes and made his request. Impossible. Song Hongda rejected almost without hesitation. Take Song Yin away? Wouldn't that be putting Song Yan's life in Wang Sheng's hands? Song Hongda had just seen his daughter. How could he put Song Yin in danger again? I'll go with you. Just as Song Hongda said that it was impossible, Song Yin made her choice. Don't force me. Song Hongda's anger reached its peak again. This time, it was directed at Song Yin. Why couldn't Song Yin see that I was trying to protect her? Did I have to force Song Yin to control her? Fine. I'll take a step back. Wang Sheng didn't care what Song Hongda was thinking. Wang Sheng's goal was to learn more about the Phoenix. Since Song Hongda had misgivings, he would find a way to get Song Hongda to agree. Lord Family Head, you can come with us. Is that okay? After all, what Song Yin wanted to talk about was the Song family's secret inheritance. As the family head, Song Hongda definitely had the authority to look through it and know more. There was no harm in having Wang Sheng with him. He could even dispel Song Hongda's misgivings. This time, Song Hongda's expression was a lot better. Wang Sheng was willing to take a step back, which gave him a way out. However, when he thought about how his daughter had disobeyed him and sided with an outsider like Wang Sheng, Song Hongda couldn't help but feel angry. He maintained his previous expression and sneered. Fine, but first, you'll have to survive them. A gentleman's word, Wang Sheng said in a doubtful tone. Wang Sheng couldn't help but be suspicious. Song Hongda had clearly agreed to something, but now he was going to go back on his word. He had to be careful. I won't go back on my word, Song Hongda replied without hesitation. I hope so, Wang Sheng said disdainfully. He then smiled. Actually, it doesn't matter. If you go back on your word, I have a way to force you to agree. Anyone can talk big. Song Hongda laughed. This time, however, he didn't look angry. I'll wait for the moment you force me to agree. Both of them were talking casually, but Song Yin was anxious. She knew that Wang Sheng was very powerful in the grounds of Thousand Despair. But she knew how powerful Song Jiming and the others were. Even if she had just found out that Song Jiming had concealed his cultivation, pretending to be an 8-stage realm cultivator as a 7-stage realm cultivator. But no matter what, there were 6 7-stage realm experts over there, and the worst one was a 5th-stage realm cultivator. Wang Sheng could defeat a 5th-stage realm cultivator, but could he defeat an 8th-stage realm Song Jiming? Hundreds of 7th-stage realm and even higher top exponents gathered in a large circle, watching Wang Sheng and Song Hongda coming to an agreement from afar or near. But from the start to the end, other than the movement of 2 people when they threw out the 5th-stage realm expert, the others had maintained a vigilant posture and hadn't changed at all. Even if their clan leader didn't keep his word earlier, they were indifferent. If you choose one, Maybe you'll say that you'll choose another later. Wang Sheng wasn't afraid of offending anyone. As he muttered the words that made the Song family furious, he stuck close to the mountain wall and walked a few steps forward, facing Song Jiming. Let's settle this once and for all. Let's see what other excuses you have. All right, you've lived here for so many years. Your old nest is actually here, right? After Wang Sheng said that, he suddenly stretched out his hand and patted the mountain wall beside him as he asked with a smile. Chapter 305. The mountain wall facing the valley looked like a complete mountain wall. There was nothing on it, but on the opposite side was a small camp suitable for living in the valley. When Song Jiming and the rest heard Wang Sheng's inexplicable words, they couldn't help but be speechless. But Song Hongda and the rest, including those experts who had been maintaining their expressionless faces, looked at Wang Sheng as if they had seen a ghost. Then Song Jiming and the rest saw Song Hongda and the rest's expressions, and they were all shocked. Could it be that what Wang Sheng said was true? But no matter how they looked, they couldn't see anything different about that mountain wall. It was obviously a mountain wall. How could they live there? Moreover, the thickness of that mountain wall was only a few feet or so. Could it accommodate hundreds of people? That's impossible. But Song Hongda and the rest's expressions were definitely not fake, which meant that they really lived here. Song Jiming looked at it many times, but he couldn't tell how that small place could accommodate so many people. If you can't tell, then don't force yourself to look. It's meaningless. Wang Sheng glanced at Song Jiming and the rest, and gave them a mocking sentence. Song Jiming's anger also rose. Song Hongda had belittled him to the point that he was worthless, and Song Jiming didn't dare to have any objections, because Song Hongda's status and current cultivation had suppressed Song Jiming completely. But what was Wang Sheng based on? Just based on his strength to send the weakest person in his team flying with one punch? Stop talking nonsense. Song Jiming roared at Wang Sheng, and then 2 3-leaf flying daggers appeared in his hands. Swoosh! The flying daggers flew towards Wang Sheng's throat and chest with the sound of the wind. Song Jiming acted quickly, and Wang Sheng's reaction was almost at the same time. 2 steel balls flew out, as if he had already calculated the angle and direction, and flew out with 2 whooshing sounds, directly colliding with the 2 flying daggers in the air. With 2 clangs, the flying daggers and the steel balls collided. Song Jiming's cultivation was at the 8th-stage realm, and the power carried by the flying daggers was so terrifying that Wang Sheng's steel balls were directly sent flying. However, after this collision, the flying direction of the 2 flying daggers also changed. Wang Sheng stood still, his feet not moving at all. The 2 flying daggers brushed past Wang Sheng's body and nailed into the mountain wall behind him. The force was so great that the 2 flying daggers disappeared into the mountain wall. Take this. Wang Sheng's words were like spring thunder as he spoke to Song Jiming and the group of Song family disciples behind him, especially the word receive, which was enunciated clearly. Anyone who heard it would be shocked. Everyone thought that Wang Sheng was going to go all out. They were all waiting to see how earth-shattering his move would be. However, what was surprising was that Wang Sheng only shouted, but he didn't move at all. It was as if he wasn't the one who shouted, which made people very puzzled. Song Jiming and the others also put on a defensive posture as though they were facing a great enemy. Song Hongda and the others weren't sure, but Song Jiming and the others were fully aware of how familiar Wang Sheng was with the 1,000 Despair and how mysterious the attack would be here. So they were all watching with full concentration, afraid that they would miss a single detail. However, Wang Sheng kept standing there, not moving at all, just watching quietly. All the experts who were watching the battle were all scratching their heads. What did this mean? What move was this? Even though they didn't understand, they were still observing with vigilance. Perhaps this was the secret signal that Wang Sheng and Song Jiming and the others had agreed on. Once they counterattacked and injured someone or a few of them escaped, then these Song family experts would be disgraced. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, Wang Sheng was still standing there without moving. What was abnormal was that Song Jiming and the others were also motionless, as though there was some invisible pressure forcing them, which made people have no choice but to raise their vigilance. Visible enemies might be frightening, but invisible enemies were even more frightening. For a moment, everyone, including Song Hongda, held their breaths, afraid that the slightest movement would disturb the battle between the two sides. Song Yin and Song Laoyu were stunned. What was going on? When they were discovered by Song Jiming, they had thought of fighting with Song Jiming and the others. However, with the addition of Wang Sheng and the other two, 3 against 20, there was no need to ask the result. They would definitely be completely annihilated. But now, it seemed that it was not the case at all. If Song Jiming and the others had insisted on not letting go, Wang Sheng might have been able to take them down by himself. This was not an unfounded speculation, but an inference based on the situation in front of them. Wang Sheng was simply too terrifying in the Thousand Despair. Song Hongda and the others finally realized that something was wrong. Song Jiming and the others had been maintaining the same posture without moving. If it was only one person, it could be understood as a coincidence. But if everyone was in the same position, it was probably not a coincidence, but a trap. Thinking of what Wang Sheng had just said, Song Hongda instantly broke out in a cold sweat. It turned out that Wang Sheng could really deal with Song Jiming and the others at any time. If that was the case, then wouldn't he and the people he brought with him, of course, some of Song Hongda's subordinates could see that something was wrong. A few of them had already started to step forward, intending to find out what was going on. If you don't want to die, don't reach out. Wang Sheng's voice sounded in everyone's ears with a hint of warning. The experts were stunned. They glanced at Wang Sheng, then continued to reach out, ignoring him. Stop! Song Yan's voice was several times louder than usual, almost shouting. Others could ignore Wang Sheng's words, but she and Song Laoyu would never do so. The first rule of following Wang Sheng into the land of Thousand Despair was that they could refuse to do what Wang Sheng asked them to do, but they could never do what Wang Sheng did not allow them to do. Otherwise, they would be severely injured or poisoned at the very least, and they would need at least half a year to recuperate. The Song family disciples could ignore Wang Sheng's warning, but they could not ignore Eldest Lady Song's words. Even though Eldest Lady Song had only just met Song Hongda and found out about their existence, she was still the eldest lady. She was the eldest daughter of the clan leader, and the clan leader was by her side. Therefore, when they heard Song Yan's words, the experts who had reached out finally retracted their hands. They then looked at Song Yin in confusion, as if waiting for her explanation. Song Hongda was also puzzled, but he did not stare at his daughter. Instead, he looked at Song Laoyu and raised his eyebrows as if asking why. No one looked at Wang Sheng. Everyone knew that Wang Sheng would not explain the situation even if they looked at him. Neither Song Yin nor Song Laoyu could explain it clearly. Song Laoyu smiled bitterly and shook her head helplessly. Just as everyone was exchanging glances, not knowing what was going on, one of the dumbfounded experts suddenly moved. However, his movement was not the kind of movement that everyone had imagined. Instead, his body tilted and he fell to the ground with a loud thud. Then he stopped moving. Chapter 306. The experts of the Song family, who were observing the situation as if they were facing a formidable enemy, all looked like they were in the dark. They had no idea what was going on. The fall of this person seemed to have started a chain reaction, followed by the second, the third. A group of experts who claimed to have cultivated in the land of Thousand Despair for more than a decade watched helplessly as those who their patriarch had said were dead fell one by one. Their hearts were full of doubts, but they were also extremely nervous. As Wang Sheng had said, the unknown was the most terrifying. No one knew what was going on. They only saw people falling one by one, but Wang Sheng did not do anything before. Why? Could it be a witchcraft? But they had lived in the land of Thousand Despair for so long, and they had never seen such a strange scene. They were all experts, and they were not far away. Of course, they could see whether those who fell to the ground were dead or alive. Everyone's chest was heaving up and down. Some people could still hear the sound of breathing, but they could not move at all. If they could not stand, they would fall down. They did not do anything else after falling down, as if they had fallen asleep on the spot. More than 20 people took turns falling down, and in the end, only Song Jiming was left. Even though Song Jiming was still standing, he did not do anything else. He stood stiffly in place like a puppet. Your cultivation is not bad, Wang Sheng praised. Song Jiming was indeed the leader and the strongest in the team. Even at this point, it was not easy for him to maintain his balance and stand. However, that was all. The only thing Song Jiming could do at the moment was to stand, but he could not even move his little finger. Wang Sheng took 2 steps forward slowly. This movement was completely different from the movements of those who had fallen before. So the group of experts were so nervous that they wished they could aim all their long-range weapons at Wang Sheng. There was no other sound at the scene. Everyone held their breath. Only the sound of Wang Sheng's footsteps in the soft fallen leaves could be heard. He was neither fast nor slow, but it seemed to step into everyone's hearts. He walked in front of Song Jiming, very close to him. He was so close that Song Jiming could kill Wang Sheng with just a stretch of his hand. However, even the simple act of stretching out his hand was as difficult as ascending to heaven for Song Jiming. Your patriarch is right. Your cultivation is not something that you train hard. Unorthodox methods just won't do. Facing Song Jiming, Wang Sheng sighed and shook his head. He then stretched out his hand, placed a finger on Song Jiming's forehead, and gave it a gentle push. Song Jiming's stiff body maintained the action of launching the throwing knife just now, and slowly fell back. Seeing Song Jiming fall, Wang Shenkai turned around and clapped his hands. He smiled and explained to those who were about to reach out, but were stopped by Song Yin. Sorry, I can reach out, but you guys can't. These words were worse than slapping everyone in the face. What did he mean by I can, but you can't? Wasn't this blatantly looking down on everyone? Song Honda's expression was very interesting at the moment. He had thought that he would be able to see Wang Sheng suffer, but now, from the beginning to the end, how had Wang Sheng suffered? If taking a few steps forward meant suffering, then everyone in this world would probably be living in an abyss of suffering. The patriarch's expression was not good, so the people around him naturally wanted to help the patriarch get back at him. The expert behind Song Honda, who looked like a steward, gave a look to the side. It had to be said that the group of people that Song Honda had brought with him were really the elites of the Song clan. In particular, they had lived in the land of Thousand Despair for more than 10 years. They had a tacit understanding that they didn't need to speak and just needed to look at each other. With a meaningful glance, one of the experts who had stopped due to Song Yan's interruption took a few steps forward and extended his hand to one of the fellows on the ground. No matter what, they had to check what kind of plot they had fallen into. Otherwise, it would not be a happy thing to be led by the nose by Wang Sheng so mysteriously. No, Song Yin, of course, saw that person's actions and screamed at him again. It wasn't just Song Yin. Even Song Laoyu, who was standing beside her, cried out the same word, no. The last time Song Yin had spoken, the experts hadn't received Song Honda's instructions, so they had stopped for the sake of eldest Mississippi. But this time, it was clearly the steward's order, so eldest Miss Song's screams were useless. Even eldest Miss Song couldn't do it, let alone Song Laoyu's voice. The person on the ground was turned over. The Song clan disciple was about to carefully examine what had happened when his body suddenly stiffened. He was originally bent over, but he suddenly lost control of his muscles. He could no longer maintain his balance, and with a bang, he silently lay on the body of the person he wanted to examine. No one believes the truth. Wang Sheng clicked his tongue a few times and shook his head. Finishing his words, when Wang Sheng turned around, the group of Song clan's experts all quivered and their figures flashed. Between Song Honda, Song Yin, and Wang Sheng, there were at least 10 more experts. Earlier, it was only 2 to 3 experts who separated them. But now everyone realized that just those 2 to 3 experts were not enough. From Song Honda to the rest, probably no one had expected that one day, a group of at least 7th-degree realm experts would face a 3rd-degree realm junior, as though they were facing a formidable enemy. Even though they had survived in the grounds of Thousand Despair for more than 10 years, they had never met with such a terrifying situation. Song Honda even started to ponder on how to ease the relationship between both parties. After all, he had displayed too much power from the start, arbitrarily categorizing Wang Sheng as one of those weaklings who could decide life and death. But now, with just one sentence from Wang Sheng, Song Jiming and the other 20 over people were unable to move, and they couldn't even touch their own people. Originally, Wang Sheng and Song Yin were considered friends. With such great ability, if they were to become enemies, then the gains would not make up for the losses. The problem was, would Song Honda be able to put down his face now? A few of the experts besides Song Honda even started to consider if they should kill Wang Sheng in an instant. This kind of undetectable method made them extremely fearful. Heavens knew when Wang Sheng would plot against them, and they would all be buried in there. Only by killing Wang Sheng would they be able to rest easy. Wang Sheng was extremely impressed at this moment. These fellows didn't dare to talk about other things, but just based on their strict discipline, they could really compete with Wang Sheng's troops on Earth. One of their own comrades had fallen right there, and they were actually able to resist breaking the battle formation. Song Honda's group of people were really well trained. Thinking of this, Wang Sheng opened his mouth towards Song Honda. Can we talk now? Chapter 307. Previously, Song Honda had said that Wang Sheng would only be able to leave after defeating one of the people present. Later, after Wang Sheng chose Song Yin, Song Honda had accepted the challenge himself. However, he did not make a move himself and asked Song Jiming and the others to do it. Now that Wang Sheng had put Song Jiming's group of people to the ground and asked if they could talk, Song Honda's face was burning. Apart from Wang Sheng himself, no one knew how Song Jiming and the others had fallen. At most, everyone guessed that those people had been poisoned and had lost their ability to move. However, how they had been poisoned at the same time, and why only those people had been poisoned while the others were safe and sound. These were all unsolved mysteries. Only Wang Sheng knew that this was the credit of the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. And take this move from me. The word receive was pronounced all. All allowed Wang Sheng to control some particularly simple animals. For example, some of the tiny venomous insects in the lands of despair. Due to the tiny size of these venomous bugs, they could only flee when there was a huge commotion. Most people in the grounds of despair wouldn't encounter these little bugs because they would be scared away by the commotion before they even got close. However, Wang Sheng was different. After using the formation formula on himself, Wang Sheng could basically regard those small animals in the land of despair as his own kind. He had a strange sense of intimacy with them. No matter how big the movement was, those poisonous insects would not escape. Then, under the command of Wang Sheng's all formula, these poisonous insects would quietly hide on the bodies of Song Jiming and the others. The poisonous insects were too small. The biggest one was the size of a black bean when Wang Sheng killed Dai Wuji last time. They were hidden in the folds of clothes and could not be found at all. Of course, this was also the reason why Wang Sheng said that Song Jiming's cultivation level was high but unorthodox. He could not even detect a living thing hiding beside him. Had his cultivation gone to waste? As long as Wang Sheng said a word, these poisonous insects could attack at any time and place. As for the guy who reached out later, it was the same. Right now, Wang Sheng was able to accurately control his targets. He could completely control the targets he launched his attacks on. However, he needed these targets to be within a certain distance. If they were too far away, he would probably have to attack indiscriminately. In the source spirit space, the wholeness and formation words had already become as bright as the soldier and swordsman words. The confrontation word was still lacking a bit. The forwarding word only had a trace of light, and the do, lai, and xing words had not lit up yet. While Wang Sheng was asking if they could talk, Song Honda was weighing the pros and cons in his heart. As for his promise to Wang Sheng that Song Yin would tell Wang Sheng some things while he was present, Song Honda didn't take it to heart at all. For an ambitious and ruthless person like him, he could choose to make Wang Sheng disappear except for Wang Sheng. No one would know that he had gone back on his words, right? The only thing to weigh was whether it was worth it or not, and whether there were enough benefits. As for the other things, were they important? Will my subordinate be in danger? Song Honda didn't answer Wang Sheng's question. Instead, he asked about the condition of his fallen subordinate with a trace of concern. He can't move, that's all. Wang Sheng didn't want to fall out with Song Honda just like that. He still wanted to obtain detailed information about the Phoenix origin soul from Song Yin. Therefore, Wang Sheng chose to answer the latter question. If his cultivation is really as strong as it seems, then he'll be fine. How did you do it? Song Honda's expression had already returned to normal. He curiously asked Wang Sheng. Song Honda wasn't the only one who wanted to know the answer to this question. Even Song Yin, Old Yu, and Song Honda's subordinates wanted to know the answer. How did you do it? Wang Sheng didn't answer this question either. Instead, he asked Song Honda, "You cultivated in the land 1,000 despair for so long." Both sides looked at each other, but no one spoke. Song Honda asked about Wang Sheng's secret, and Wang Sheng also asked about the Song family secret. Obviously, if Song Honda answered, Wang Sheng wouldn't mind telling them that he could control the poisonous insects. But if Song Honda didn't answer, then don't blame Wang Sheng for keeping his mouth shut. I'm very curious. If I go back on my word, what will you do? Song Honda looked at Wang Sheng. He couldn't see through this third-degree realm junior at all. This made him feel an indescribable sense of defeat. Father. Hearing Song Honda's words, Song Yin immediately sensed that something was wrong. She hurriedly called out, trying to warn Song Honda. Song Yin knew Wang Sheng too well. In the process of getting to know Wang Sheng, all the things Wang Sheng said, Wang Sheng had come true. Not a single one of them was a lie. Not long ago, Wang Sheng had said that if Song Honda didn't fulfill his promise, he would force them to do so. Wang Sheng's words were definitely not a joke. If it really came to that, it was inevitable that the Song family would fall out with Wang Sheng. If that happened, what would Song Yin do? What I hate the most is being threatened by others. Song Honda cut off Song Yin's next words. This time, he didn't use the method he used to make Song Yin speechless, but his tone was unyielding. No one has ever dared to be presumptuous in front of me. You're the first. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you're going to force me. Following Song Honda's words, the Song family's experts were ready to take action. Facing a mysterious opponent like Wang Sheng, who could defeat dozens of people at any time, they couldn't be too careful. I've led the Song family's elites in the grounds of Thousand Despair for more than 10 years. What kind of danger have we not encountered? Song Honda said firmly as he looked at Wang Sheng. At the same time, he seemed to be explaining to Song Yin and Song Laoyu. I've paid a huge price to greatly increase the strength of the Song family's elites. But if a junior can casually threaten me and force me to do anything, then wouldn't the sacrifices and cultivation of the Song family's elites all these years be worthless? Facing an expert like Song Jiming, Song Honda could kill him. Song Jiming and the others didn't even dare to take the initiative to fight back. But unfortunately, a third-stage realm junior like Wang Sheng had repeatedly done things which no one had expected. To Song Honda and the elite top exponents whom he had brought along, it was simply the greatest irony. Even if it was just to maintain their confidence, Song Honda had to completely suppress Wang Sheng's arrogance. The moment these words came out, no matter how unwilling Song Yin and Song Laoyu were, they couldn't open their mouths to persuade him. You've lived in the grounds of Thousand Despair for so many years. Just as Song Yin was in a dilemma, Wang Sheng smiled and said, "Have you heard this sound before?" Chapter 308. Wang Sheng could understand Song Honda's mentality. He had endured the humiliation of training a group of elites in the land of 1,000 extremes, and it was time for him to show his strength to the world. He could have sacrificed Song Jiming and the other elders' men, the so-called traitors, to boost morale. However, Wang Sheng had appeared. If Wang Sheng had no ability to resist, needless to say, he would have killed them directly and sacrificed them to the flag. However, Wang Sheng still had some tricks up his sleeve in the land of 1,000 extremes. He didn't let Song Honda slaughter him, and he had some connections with Song Yin. Since he couldn't make a move directly, differences naturally appeared. This difference was almost irreconcilable. It wasn't that Wang Sheng didn't know how to compromise, but that Song Honda's ambitious and ruthless character made it so. To put it bluntly, all the big families in the world had the same way of doing things. When they saw that you were weak, they would come up and eat you up. When they found that you were a hard-boned Chu, they would realize that something was wrong. However, they had already done a lot of things that couldn't be undone. It was inevitable that they would become enemies. This was what Wang Sheng was most displeased about. What could not be discussed? Do you really have to do it your way? Do you really have to make everyone kneel down and lick your boots? Sorry, I don't want to serve you. Everyone was stunned when they heard Wang Sheng's question. What sound? Apart from the sound of the wind rustling the leaves, even the cries of insects have been silenced by so many people. What sound could there be? Deliberately mystifying. Song Honda snorted coldly and gave his evaluation. As soon as he said this, he suddenly heard a faint sound of running water. The sound was very light and faint, as if it was very far away. However, it couldn't be said that there was no sound. This put Song Honda in a difficult position. If he could hear it, then his subordinates could naturally hear it too. However, Song Honda was slapped in the face after saying that he was deliberately mystifying. This was really not giving Song Honda face. So what if there is sound? Of course, Song Honda wouldn't admit that he had said something wrong. He braced himself and asked, "Isn't it just the sound of running water? What's so great about it?" As soon as he heard Song Honda's words, Wang Sheng knew that Song Honda and his subordinates had never heard of this voice before. In other words, they must have never encountered these demonic beasts. Of course, it was even more impossible for him to know how terrifying the faint sound of flowing water was. Shaking his head slightly, Wang Sheng sighed in his heart. The ignorant are truly fearless. Many 7-star and 8-star demonic beasts would retreat in the face of man-eating ants, but Song Honda actually dared to stand here with hundreds of people. It seems like you guys aren't very familiar with the land of 1,000 despair. Wang Sheng laughed along with Song Honda's words. Let me guess. Because you have a safe campsite here, you won't be able to move more than 10 miles away. Even though he had lived in the grounds of 1,000 extremities for more than 10 years, he had spent most of his time cultivating by borrowing the aura of the grounds of 1,000 extremities instead of fully understanding it. Am I right? Song Honda's heart trembled when he heard Wang Sheng's words. What kind of brain did this guy have? To be able to deduce so many things from a voice they had never heard before, he really wasn't an ordinary kind of intelligence. Either that, or he was extremely familiar with the grounds of 1,000 extremities. Song Honda's heart stirred, and he suddenly felt some regret. Along the way, he should have been able to tell that Wang Sheng wasn't a member of the Song family, but he was moving with the Song family. Therefore, Wang Sheng must have been their guide. In other words, Wang Sheng was really the kind of person who was extremely familiar with the grounds of 1,000 extremities. Moreover, there was a certain aura in the grounds of 1,000 extremities that could stimulate cultivation. This secret was obtained by an ancestor of the Song family at the cost of his life, and it had always been treated as a top secret by the Song family. The patriarchs passed it down from mouth to mouth, and even the great elder and the others didn't know about it. But how did Wang Sheng know so clearly? Could it be that he knew more secrets about the grounds of 1,000 extremities? If such a person could be roped in, he would definitely bring unimaginable wealth to the Song family. Why did he want to kill him out of anger when he saw him taking advantage of Song Yin? However, it seemed that he had given Wang Sheng a chance to join the Song family at the beginning, but this guy didn't know what was good for him. It couldn't be blamed on Song Honda. So what if I am? So what if I'm not? Song Honda asked with a cold face. Song Yin stood beside Song Honda and didn't know how to interrupt. After so many years, Song Yin didn't even know Song Honda's character, let alone persuade him. In any case, she and Song Laoyu were the most uncomfortable ones now. They wanted to maintain their relationship on both sides, but the current situation forced them to choose one side. One was her father and the patriarch, and the other was a friend. How could they choose? Song Yin could only grit her teeth and stand with Song Honda. However, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. Wang Sheng's performance was too calm. No matter how high Wang Sheng's cultivation was, there must be a terrifying reason for him to be so calm in front of hundreds of people. Don't deny it. Wang Sheng shook his head slightly. It's useless. You don't know what this sound is. It's nothing more than some flowing water. Song Honda snorted coldly again. This kind of sudden small stream in the jungle can't even drown my ankles. What difference does it make whether I know or not? The sound of flowing water was getting louder and clearer. It was clearly the sound of flowing water. It couldn't be anything else. However, Song Honda suddenly had a bad feeling when he saw the sarcastic smile on Wang Sheng's face. Song Honda didn't know why it was bad. However, Song Honda felt a sense of danger. This feeling grew stronger and stronger, even causing Song Honda to frown. I said that if you go back on your word, I have a way to force you to agree. Wang Sheng still stood in the same place, not moving at all. He said to Song Honda indifferently, "Now, I plan to force you to agree." "I'm so scared." Song Honda said the words of fear, but the expression on his face and his joking tone clearly showed that he meant the opposite. After saying this, Song Honda officially responded to Wang Sheng, "I'm ready. I'm waiting for you to force me. Come on, force me." Song Honda had already made up his mind to see Wang Sheng's trump card first. If Wang Sheng's trump card was exposed and he could not withstand a single blow, Song Honda would never let Wang Sheng live to cause trouble for himself. Even if it might make his daughter unhappy, he couldn't care less. Anyway, after this appearance, Song Honda planned to return to the Song family to fight for hegemony. Song Yin would naturally become the eldest miss of the Song family again. At that time, would she still care about a small fry like Wang Sheng, who wasn't a member of the Song family? Let me give a brief introduction first. Wang Sheng calmly introduced to Song Honda. The sound of flowing water isn't really flowing water. It's the sound of a kind of demonic beast walking. Don't worry, the grade of the demonic beast isn't high. At most, it's in the first stage. It's just that there are a lot of them. You have to be mentally prepared. Chapter 309. Song Honda was actually feeling apprehensive earlier. He didn't hear the sound, but Wang Sheng heard it in advance. Moreover, it was after Wang Sheng had said it, and he only heard it after a while. Not only did he not hear it, his underlings didn't hear it as well. They heard it almost at the same time as him. A third-degree realm young lad's hearing was actually stronger than a group of 7th or 8th degree realm experts. If it couldn't be explained in terms of cultivation, then either Wang Sheng had strengthened his hearing when he advanced, or he had some special means to know that there were demonic beasts nearby. But when he heard Wang Sheng say that it was demonic beasts and the demonic beasts were at most in the first-degree realm, Song Honda was completely relieved. First-degree realm demonic beasts, even if there were a lot of them, so what? 1,000 or 10,000 of them. What could they do to a 7th-degree realm expert? A lot of them? How many can there be? Song Honda had already decided to take action after he had seen Wang Sheng's trump card. After heaving a sigh of relief, his voice was relaxed. 1,000 or 10,000? If you want to use this to force me, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. No matter how many come, they will all die. The ignorant are fearless. The ignorant are fearless. These were really wise words. There should be a few 100 million of them. Wang Sheng smiled faintly. I'll just stand here and watch how you kill all these man-eating ants. The sound of flowing water was very clear. Ever since they heard Wang Sheng's reminder that this sound was the sound of demonic beasts moving, everyone knew that the demonic beasts were getting closer. Everyone took out their weapons and waited to kill the demonic beasts. However, when he heard Wang Sheng mention the man-eating ants, Song Honda's mind went blank, nearly exploding from the shock. A few 100 million man-eating ants? Not only Song Honda, everyone in the Song family had goosebumps. A few 100 million man-eating ants. What did that mean? Although they had never seen man-eating ants, it did not mean that Song Honda and the others did not know how powerful they were. This famous little thing was famous for killing everything it passed by. It was said that almost all those who had seen it were dead, so there were only a few people who had seen this little thing alive. Now, Song Honda was sure that Wang Sheng was an expert who was familiar with the Thousand Despair Grounds. He might even be one of the people who had seen the man-eating ants and survived. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known what those sounds were. Open up the camp and retreat. At this time, Song Honda couldn't care less about dealing with Wang Sheng. It was better to get everyone to a safe place first. Otherwise, all the disciples present would be annihilated. As soon as the patriarch gave the order, the experts moved very quickly and immediately took action. More than a dozen experts rushed to the mountain wall, each looking for a direction. At the same time, they stretched out their hands, grabbed a few vines on the mountain wall, and began to pull them out. At this time, Song Yin and Song Laoyu realized that the vines they had grabbed were fake. They were just disguised so well that they looked real. However, Wang Sheng seemed to have known about it, and wasn't surprised at all. His eyesight, which had been strengthened by the Qi Kiss transformation, allowed Wang Sheng to easily see the difference between the vines and the ones around them. Although there was only a slight difference in color compared to Wang Sheng, who could even distinguish the difference in color pixels by 1 or 2 points, the vines were as bright as fireflies in the dark. It was because of this that Wang Sheng discovered the secret on the mountain wall and determined that Song Honda and the others' camp should be in the mountain wall. Seeing the group of Song family experts in a panic, Wang Sheng couldn't help shaking his head with a smile and said, "It's too late to move now." As if to verify Wang Sheng's words, when the thick mountain wall was pulled open, revealing a hole that could accommodate 2 people walking side by side, a swarm of black man-eating ants rushed out. Hundreds of people lived in the mountain wall, so naturally, there were many ventilation holes and holes for sewage. The man-eating ants, which were almost everywhere, had already drilled into the mountain wall through those holes and occupied most of the space. When the Song family experts who had pulled open the hole saw this scene, they immediately shouted and quickly retreated to the back. The sound of water splashing came from all directions. The group of Song family members had actually been surrounded by these man-eating ants without them realizing it. They could now see the huge colony of man-eating ants around them. Countless black man-eating ants were gathering from the space they occupied as the center. Up the trees, someone immediately thought a way. They were in the jungle, and there were many tall trees, enough for them to occupy the commanding heights of a group of trees. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Almost at the same time that person shouted, hundreds of figures jumped onto the nearest tree with all kinds of beautiful and fast movements, and then desperately climbed higher. Even Song Honda was no exception. He pulled Song Yin and leaped up 20 feet into the air, grabbed a nearby branch, and threw Song Yin up again. Then he called out to Old Fish Song and used his strength to insert a few fingers into the tree trunk, pulling his body up. Then, he grabbed the higher part of the tree trunk. Relying on this method, they quickly climbed up. Wang Sheng looked at the movements of the Song family experts and nodded repeatedly. They were indeed experts. Sure enough, their bodies were strong and their speed was amazing. Song Honda was also not bad. It was normal that he didn't forget his daughter, and he still remembered to call out to Song Laoyu, which showed that he was still a nostalgic person. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng didn't like the way the overbearing patriarch of a big family handled things. This time, he might have to teach Song Honda a lesson that he would never forget. Everyone moved very fast, and the man-eating ants were not slow either. They had just found a place to stand on the big tree that they occupied, and the man-eating ants had already covered the whole ground. There were no fallen leaves or grass, and everyone could only see a black sea when they looked down. In fact, everyone understood that climbing up the tree was just a temporary measure, but being surrounded by man-eating ants, what else could they do but climb up the tree? At least after climbing up the tree, they could temporarily escape the threat of a large number of man-eating ants. As long as they focused on dealing with the group of man-eating ants climbing up along the trunk, they might have a chance to escape. But if they stayed on the ground, they would only die. As a matter of fact, Song Jiming and the others, who had been taken down by Wang Sheng earlier, were instantly surrounded by the man-eating ants, forming more than 20 large black blobs. In less than a minute or two, the black blobs dispersed, leaving behind more than 20 clean and intact skeletons. Although not a drop of blood was seen, everyone on the tree was horrified. It was as if the sound of gnawing human bodies was lingering in their ears, like the voice of a devil, making people feel a lingering fear from the depths of their souls. Chapter 310. Song Hongda and a few hundred of his men had been in the grounds of Thousand Despair for a long time. They had seen most of the demonic beasts in the grounds of Thousand Despair, but they had never seen such a terrifying little thing. The large demonic beasts in this area had already been cleared out by Song Hongda and the rest, but there were still some small demonic beasts. However, at this moment, all the living things that could be seen on the ground were the black mass of man-eating ants. There was nothing else. Whether it was snakes, insects, rats, ants, jackals, wolves, tigers, or leopards, as long as they were touched by the black torrent, they would immediately fall into a disaster. Those who were lucky would be left with a pile of white skeletons, while those who were unlucky would be left without a trace. Hundreds of people witnessed all this with their own eyes. The fear in their hearts could be imagined. What was worth rejoicing was that these man-eating ants had not climbed up the tree trunk. If they had really climbed up, many of them would not know what to do. But everyone seemed to feel that they had missed out on something. In the face of life and death, everyone was only concerned about the safety of themselves and their own people. How could they care about anything else? Song Hongda immediately remembered where was Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng, the one who had warned them from the beginning that there was a voice and said that he wanted to force them. Where had he gone to? The place where Wang Sheng was originally standing. There was also a huge black human-shaped bulge. On it was also densely packed with man-eating ants. The only unusual thing was that the bulge at Wang Sheng's position was still standing, unlike Song Jiming and the rest who had fallen to the ground. As soon as he thought of Song Jiming and the others, Song Hongda remembered that one of his men had also fallen to the ground for some inexplicable reason. When he had just climbed up the tree, no one had dared to pull him up. Looking at the corner just now, as expected, there were two skeletons lying there, and man-eating ants would crawl over them from time to time. One of them, needless to say, was his own man, although one of his men had died. But at least Wang Sheng, the hateful fellow, did not gain any benefits and was also buried in the stomach of the ants. But when Song Hongda thought of this, his heart still ached. Why? Could it be that a 7th-degree realm man like him could only be exchanged for the life of a 3rd-degree realm junior like Wang Sheng? And even trapped everyone in this area? The more Song Hongda thought about it, the more he regretted it. If he had known this would be the result, he would have agreed to Wang Sheng's request. Why did he have to play such a trick? Wang Sheng had discovered the man-eating ants a long time ago. At that time, he had absolutely the chance to lead everyone away or find a safer place. However, because of some unknown thoughts that he had forcefully destroyed the chance to escape. Up in the tree, Song Yin was also looking at the human-shaped black lump standing where Wang Sheng was. An indescribable sorrow suddenly surged in her heart, as if she had completely lost the most important thing in her life. She couldn't describe this feeling. She only felt that her heart was in so much pain that she couldn't even breathe. However, despite the pain in her heart, Song Yan's expression didn't change at all. There was only an indescribable glow in her eyes. What did I want to ask you? Song Hongda finally remembered to ask Song Yin what Wang Sheng wanted to know. Don't you think it's a little too late to know now? Father. Song Yan's voice was a little cold as she replied. When Song Hongda heard this voice, he felt a wave of regret. He knew that Song Yin didn't reject the little intimacy between her and Wang Sheng, but he had to make things difficult for her. It was indeed a little too much. Song Hongda could swear to the heavens that he was only thinking from a father's point of view. Song Yan's cultivation was in the 5th-degree realm, and to let her be together with a young man in the 3rd-degree realm made her feel uncomfortable. He felt that Wang Sheng had an ulterior motive for getting close to Song Yan. He was really thinking for Song Yan. If he had known this would happen, why did he do it in the first place? Song Hongda hated that he couldn't go back to a quarter of an hour ago. This matter could have been settled with a few words, but why did he have to make it so that everyone's lives were hanging by a thread? How hateful! I didn't expect this fellow to be so ruthless. He doesn't want his own life and still wants to drag us down with him. Song Hongda could only use other ways to ease the gap between him and his daughter. He specially pointed out Wang Sheng's evil intention of sending everyone to their deaths, so that Song Yan could understand him a little more. Before this, the 5 great clans had sent hundreds of people to pursue and kill him, but he killed all of them in the grounds of Thousand Despair. Song Yan's face squeezed out a strand of smile. No matter how you looked at it, it was full of ridicule. But later on, people realized that as long as you communicate with him properly, everything can be discussed, including bringing people into the grounds of Thousand Despair. He's not ruthless, he just wants to live. Song Hongda was momentarily speechless. At the same time, he realized that he had really done something wrong. If he had known that Wang Sheng had so many things that could be discussed, why did he have to create such an unmanageable situation? But it was too late for regrets now. If Wang Sheng died, they would soon die in the mouths of these hundreds of millions of man-eating ants. What great ambitions, what enduring for 10 over years of hardship. In the end, all became nothing because of one person. Song Hongda suddenly felt like crying. All his great ambitions, all because of a tiny ant that he had completely disregarded, had completely turned into bubbles. Who could he go to reason with? Were you talking about me earlier? A familiar voice suddenly rang in everyone's ears. When everyone heard this voice, their first reaction was that they had seen a ghost. How could a person with man-eating ants crawling all over his body, to the point where nothing could be seen, still be able to speak? Song Yan's body instantly trembled. She stared in surprise in the direction where Wang Sheng was standing, staring at the human-shaped bump in the distance. She simply couldn't believe her ears. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the man-eating ants on the black human-shaped bump suddenly scattered, revealing Wang Sheng's face, which still maintained the smile from before. Be good. Go pick up all the things on the bodies of those people on the ground. Don't waste them. Wang Sheng lowered his head slightly, as if he was talking to the air. But when Wang Sheng finished speaking, the man-eating ants on Wang Sheng's body instantly left Wang Sheng's body, disappearing into the Black Sea. Wang Sheng's entire body, from head to toe, was still the same as before. There was not the slightest change. Looking in the direction of the tree where Song Yin and Song Hongda were, Wang Sheng lifted his foot and walked over. As soon as he lifted his foot, the spot where his foot had originally been was immediately filled with man-eating ants. The man-eating ants quickly cleared a small space where his foot had landed, just enough for Wang Sheng to put his foot down. Chief Song, if you have no objections, I will take Song Yin with me. Wang Sheng walked to the tree and smiled at Song Hongda. As for you, Chief, there is no need for you to follow. Chapter 311. Hearing Wang Sheng's impolite words, Song Hongda almost vomited blood, but he couldn't say a word. Song Hongda knew that if he insisted on fighting for it, Wang Sheng would definitely retort, I gave you face, but you didn't want it. Song Hongda absolutely believed that Wang Sheng would say these words, because Wang Sheng had said these words himself when Song Hongda wanted to rope him in and was rejected. At that time, Song Hongda really thought that Wang Sheng didn't want the face he gave him. But now, the situation was in Wang Sheng's hands. Apart from everything else, just his superb skills in controlling the man-eating ants made people speechless. In this situation, Song Hongda still wanted to fight for the conditions that Wang Sheng had taken the initiative to give him. Song Hongda really wasn't that thick-skinned. Even if he was thick-skinned enough to say it, Wang Sheng would definitely reply with his own words. Thinking about it, Song Honda was the one who really didn't want the face he was given. He couldn't negotiate properly. He had to be pressured by Wang Sheng before he was willing to give in. But now that Wang Sheng was pressuring him, Song Honda found that the feeling of being forced to give in was really unpleasant, very unpleasant. The problem was, no matter how unpleasant it was, everyone would die in the mouths of man-eating ants. Then everything would be over, and all his ambitions would be in vain. Compared to being slightly humiliated and lowering his head a little, it really wasn't a big deal. Those who achieve great things don't bother about trifles. Before Song Honda could make up his mind, Wang Sheng had already comforted him. Think about how much Song Yin has suffered all these years. As a father, can't you empathize with her? Song Honda was still a little hesitant. Having his thoughts seen through made him feel even more embarrassed. Song Honda wasn't sure how Wang Sheng could guarantee that Wang Sheng wouldn't do anything to them after Song Yin left with Wang Sheng. Even if Wang Sheng didn't have such intentions, wouldn't it be terrible if he couldn't control those man-eating ants? Just as he was thinking about this, Song Honda suddenly saw an unbelievable scene. Song Honda wasn't the only one who saw it. As long as it wasn't hidden by the trees, everyone saw it. Starting from Wang Sheng's feet, a swarm of man-eating ants crawled up one after another. They lined up neatly, crawling along Wang Sheng's trousers and lapels, then climbed up Wang Sheng's shoulders, and then climbed along his arms to Wang Sheng's hands. If it was just man-eating ants, it wouldn't be that surprising. Everyone had already accepted that the man-eating ants didn't bite Wang Sheng. But what were those man-eating ants biting? The man-eating ants that crawled up seemed to be slightly bigger, and each of them had a ring-like object in their mouths. Everyone checked carefully and confirmed that it was indeed a ring, because many of them had seen these things on Song Jiming's hands. The first man-eating ant crawled up to Wang Sheng's hand and put the ring in Wang Sheng's hand. Then it went down in another direction. Then the second one, the third one. After a while, there was a pile of rings on Wang Sheng's hand. There seemed to be more than 40 rings piled up like a small mountain. Your Song family is really rich. Wang Sheng looked at the pile of rings on his hand and couldn't help sighing. Every time we enter the land of thousand despair, everyone has to get 2 storage rings. Amazing. Everyone was stunned. Who would have thought that what Wang Sheng said just now would really have such an effect? People thought that Wang Sheng was just joking. Who would have thought that the man-eating ants were so obedient and had such intelligence? Song Honda's eyes were as wide as saucers as he stared at this scene. Of course, the man-eating ants couldn't have such high intelligence. As the head of the family, he thought the fastest. Of course, this was the result of Wang Sheng's control. He had just had the thought of disbelief in his heart when he saw Wang Sheng's superb control method. Even before he thought of this problem, Wang Sheng had already begun to control the man-eating ants to do this. Thinking about it more deeply, this meant that Wang Sheng had already grasped his temperament in this short period of interaction. He had even thought of the possible choices he might make. When he thought about how his thoughts and actions were presented in front of Wang Sheng, Song Honda felt that Wang Sheng was even more terrifying. Little Yin, come down. I'll show you around your Song family's campsite. Wang Sheng no longer paid attention to Song Honda and called out to Song Yin. He changed the way he addressed her to Little Yin, which was more intimate. Song Yin's face was full of joy. When she heard Wang Sheng's words and saw Wang Sheng extend his hand, she was so happy that she almost exploded. Father, I'm going. The fact that Wang Sheng was still alive caused Song Yan's resentment towards Song Honda to vanish. After greeting her father, Song Yan disregarded everything else and jumped down from the several Zhanghai tree trunk towards Wang Sheng. She did not care about the consequences of jumping from such a high place. Be careful. Song Honda had already admitted defeat in his heart. Song Yin jumping down saved him a lot of embarrassment. But even if Song Yin was a 5th-degree cultivator, jumping down from such a high place would not hurt her. She would definitely jump into the crowd of man-eating ants. Even if Wang Sheng could control the man-eating ants, once a few of them went out of control, wouldn't it bode ill for Song Yin? It would only take 1 or 2 seconds to jump down from the tree. When Wang Sheng saw Song Yin jump down with a face full of smiles, he knew that she was so happy that she didn't know what was going on. He sighed slightly and quickly put a pile of rings into his pocket. Then he hugged Song Yin with both hands. The moment he touched Song Yin's body, Wang Sheng's arm bent slightly. Using the Tai Chi technique, he pulled and unloaded the force of the fall. His knees bent slightly, and the momentum of the fall was gently removed by Wang Sheng. Song Yin didn't even feel the slightest shock before she was princess, carried by Wang Sheng. At this moment, Song Yin didn't care whether Song Honda was blowing his beard and glaring at her, or whether old Song was sighing and sighing, or whether her father's subordinates were stunned. She jumped into Wang Sheng's arms and naturally wrapped her arms around Wang Sheng's neck. She buried her head in the space between Wang Sheng's shoulders and neck. She allowed Wang Sheng to carry her horizontally and walk towards a mountain wall that had just opened the entrance. The ground is full of man-eating ants. It's not safe for little Yin to step on it. Wang Sheng smiled and explained to Song Honda, who had a strange expression on his face. He didn't care what Song Honda was thinking and carried Song Yin steadily into the camp. The crowd only saw that wherever Wang Sheng went, the man-eating ants would automatically open up a space for Wang Sheng to walk in smoothly. It was incomparably magical. Chapter 312. In fact, at this moment, if someone were to risk their life, with the exception of Song Laoyu, anyone else here would be able to kill Wang Sheng with their cultivation. However, the result would be that everyone would die. As soon as Wang Sheng died, the man-eating ants would immediately lose control and start killing everyone in a frenzy. Or, if Wang Sheng gave an order before he died, the man-eating ants would attack even more crazily. Perhaps without Wang Sheng, the man-eating ants would disperse, but the possibility was too small, so small that Song Honda didn't dare to take the risk. He could only watch as his daughter, whom he had just reunited with for less than an hour, was carried by Wang Sheng into the camp that they had been hiding all this time. The worst part was that the place Wang Sheng had chosen was the real camp that they thought was well protected and well camouflaged. All of them were trapped on the big tree outside the camp, while Wang Sheng could do whatever he wanted to his daughter inside. Thinking of this, Song Honda wanted nothing more than to grind Wang Sheng's bones to ashes. Of course, at the same time, he also hated himself a little. Song Honda was an ambitious person. He wasn't the kind of person who couldn't afford to lose. Losing wasn't scary. What he was afraid of was not knowing why he had lost and losing the confidence to win. Obviously, Song Honda was also good at summarizing. This time, he had indeed underestimated Wang Sheng's strength. His biggest mistake was that he thought he had control of the situation and didn't kill everyone immediately. If he had attacked at the beginning, these things probably wouldn't have happened. His second mistake was that he didn't understand Wang Sheng and took it for granted that he was some kind of person who could kill people. In the future, he must change this stubborn and self-opinionated personality. Wang Sheng didn't care how Song Honda summed up this mistake on the tree. He carried Song Yin straight into the camp. Under normal circumstances, the camp would definitely be guarded. However, when the man-eating ants crawled into the camp through the small ventilation holes, it didn't matter whether there were guards or not. At most, they would leave behind a pile of bones. The mountain wall was not thick, but this was not a real camp. It was just a passage. After walking for a few hundred meters, Wang Sheng and Song Yin came out of a hidden cave and entered an even more hidden valley. More than half of the top of the valley was covered by all kinds of vines, and only a few strands of light could be seen. There should also be a concealment array, so even if one walked above, one would not be able to see the valley below. The vision of flying demonic beasts would also be blinded. The valley was big enough for hundreds of people to live in. Its structure was almost the same as the abandoned campsite outside. It was built in caves about 10 feet above the ground to avoid the harassment of demonic beasts and insects on the ground. On the ground of the valley, some medicinal herbs and fruits were planted at the edges and corners, while the other part was empty and looked like a training ground. As soon as they entered the valley, Wang Sheng could feel a completely different spirit chi from the outside. It was as if the spirit chi here had been refined and was much purer than the outside. Cultivating in such an environment was much more efficient than cultivating in an ordinary place. Needless to say, one could feel the aura of all kinds of demonic beasts here at all times. In addition, the core area of the ground of 1,000 extremities emitted the aura of experts that old monster Li of the royal family had mentioned. From the inside to the outside, it was simply an ideal place for cultivation. The camp was very clean. Even if it was not clean, it would be clean enough after being eaten by the man-eating ants. Wang Shengsheng walked along the hidden cave until he reached a height of 100 feet and found a hall that seemed to be used for meetings. Only then did he put Song Yin down gently. Ever since Song Yin jumped into Wang Sheng's arms and wrapped her arms around his neck in front of her father and hundreds of subordinates, she had been blushing and unable to say a word. Wang Sheng hugged Song Yin, feeling the elasticity of her body. At the same time, he could feel that the breath that Song Yin exhaled on his neck was getting hotter and hotter. "All right, don't worry. I won't do anything to your father and the others," Wang Sheng said softly in front of Song Yin, trying to reassure her. It wasn't that Wang Sheng really wanted to please Song Yin, although that was definitely part of it. The main reason was that Wang Sheng wanted to see Song Honda appear with a group of experts. He wanted to see what kind of impact it would have on the aristocratic families outside, and what kind of benefits it would bring to opening the core area of the ground of 1,000 extremities. At the end of the day, Wang Sheng's ultimate goal was to find the girl of his dreams. Wang Sheng admitted that he had a good impression of Song Yin, but it was just a good impression. It wasn't to the extent of longing for the girl of his dreams, let alone love. Song Yin also came to her senses. She heaved a sigh of relief at Wang Sheng's words. If Wang Sheng insisted on killing them, Song Yin wouldn't know what to do. Should she help her father or help her friends? In any case, she would be in the most difficult position. Tell me about your family's records about phoenixes." Wang Sheng sat opposite Song Yin and asked about what he was most concerned about. Although Song Yin felt that it was a bit of a pity that the two of them had to talk about such a beautiful time when they were alone together, she also understood that her father and the others were still worried on the big tree outside. It was really not a good time to enjoy the world of just the two of them. Song Yin calmed herself down and began to narrate. What she started off with was what Wang Sheng learned from Lao Junguan. The Scarlet Bear Clan, the Divine Eagle Prison, the Lin family, the world's #1 expert, the public's anger, the collective attack, and so on. This was no different from what old Taoist Ling Su had said. The difference was that back then, Lao Junguan was just a bystander, while the Song family was one of the parties involved. That year, the Song family's third stage and above experts came out in full force, and the other clans and sects did the same. They started a bloody battle with the Lin family. The Lin family's world's #1 expert with the Phoenix Soul did not make a move at first, as he wanted to reason with them. In the end, the Lin family's bullies couldn't help but make a move first, so the hatred was irreconcilable. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. The Lin family was completely destroyed, leaving only their #1 expert, and the casualties of the other parties were several times that of the Lin family. In the end, more than 60 experts surrounded the Lin family's expert, and they were in a deadlock. At the crucial moment, hundreds of array masters from the various clans activated a sealing array that had been secretly prepared for many years, and completely sealed the Lin family's #1 expert in the array. Due to the fear of being killed, in addition to that array formation, the various parties set up hundreds of arrays of various sizes. At the same time, the more than 60 super experts had been guarding outside the sealing array formation, replenishing the spirit energy of the array formation, while suppressing the resistance of the experts. Since there are so many experts here, how did the lands of 1,000 despair form? Wang Sheng asked curiously. He could tell that something was different. Chapter 3:13. Song Yin hesitated for a moment, wondering if she should tell Wang Sheng. But it was only for a moment before he said, "In the beginning, no one noticed it. But later on, the top-notch experts who were stationed there discovered a strange place. Strange place? Wang Xing asked, catching on to Song Yan's main point. That's what the family records said. They only said it was strange, nothing else. Song Yan nodded and repeated. But the clan records also said that the dozens of peerless masters never left. Is that place dangerous? Wang Xing asked. I don't think so. Song Yin shook her head. If it was dangerous, there wouldn't be any records. It is said that these things were said by the ancestors of the Song clan who stayed there. They only said this much before they hurriedly returned there. Eunuch Li's words suddenly flashed in Wang Sheng's mind. Was this strange place the place where the Lin clan's martial intent was condensed? According to the Song clan's records, the Lin clan's #1 expert had a phoenix origin spirit. But the Song clan only knew about the phoenix origin spirit, not what a phoenix was. Because the sealed expert from the Lin family is still resisting, those experts are constantly suppressing him. Song Yin continued. Later on, because of the attack and defense of the two sides, ordinary people couldn't get close to that area. But the strange thing was that the demonic beasts could, completely unaffected. The circle grew larger and larger, slowly extending to the current area of the Thousand Despair. Song Yin explained the inside story of the Thousand Despair, much more detailed than the Laojun temples. For about 10 years, no one could enter the Thousand Despair. Then why do all of you insist on entering the grounds of Thousand Despair? Wang Sheng asked. If it's for money, how much could the Lin clan have left after the war? Cultivation manuals? Or something else? I don't know. Song Yin shook her head. You know my position in the family. I was lucky to be able to see records of the phoenix. Maybe you should ask my father. He will know more. Wang Sheng pondered for a moment and realized that this was a good idea. Although he didn't bring Song Honda along as a response to his arrogance, since Song Honda obviously knew more, Wang Sheng didn't mind learning from him. Of course, it could also be considered as giving him a way out. This time, Wang Sheng did not carry Song Yin out to provoke Song Honda. Instead, he took her hand and led her out. To be honest, Song Yin was excited and thrilled to be able to pass through the dense man-eating ants. It was an experience she had never experienced before. She trembled with anticipation, especially when two groups of man-eating ants crawled up her trousers curiously. If Wang Sheng was not by her side, Song Yin would have been so scared that she would have attacked him. Clan Leader Song. I seem to have forgotten that I promised to ask the questions together with you. Clan Leader. Wang Sheng pulled Song Yin to the tree where Song Honda was and shouted at Song Honda without sincerity. After thinking about it, I felt that it was inappropriate. People should keep their promises, so I specially came back to invite you. Song Honda saw Wang Sheng holding Song Yan's little hand and taunting him. He was so angry that he almost fell from the tree. He was an extremely smart master. How could he not know that there must be some questions that Song Yin could not answer? So she came to find him. But Wang Sheng kept holding Song Yan's hand. What was this? A demonstration? Don't misunderstand. If I don't hold little Yin, these man-eating ants will tear her apart. Wang Sheng seemed to see through Song Honda's thoughts. He looked up at Song Honda and gave this still insincere explanation with a smile. Not to mention Song Honda, even Song Laoyu wanted to slap Wang Sheng in the face. With his superb ability to control man-eating ants, how could he not hold Song Yan's hand before the man-eating ants would make a move? Wasn't he taking the opportunity to take advantage of her? After all, Song Honda was an ambitious person. Although Wang Sheng was hateful, Wang Sheng had given him a dignified reason to step down. Moreover, Song Honda could also see that his daughter actually had a good impression of Wang Sheng. Otherwise, she would not be so intimate with him. He had not taken care of his daughter for more than 10 years. It seemed that he should not deprive his daughter of the right to like someone as soon as they met. After thinking about it, Song Honda directly jumped down without saying anything. Everyone was shocked and was about to follow, but Song Honda ordered after jumping down. You guys wait here. Song Honda understood that if he jumped down alone, Wang Sheng would definitely have questions to ask. If everyone jumped down, The only thing Wang Sheng could do would be to activate the man-eating ants to attack. They both jumped down from a height of several meters. Wang Sheng reached out to catch Song Yin and used Tai Chi to reduce the force. However, facing Song Honda, he did not care. Fortunately, Song Honda did not care about this. His cultivation was high enough. As soon as he jumped, the man-eating ants under the tree he was on made way, and then Song Honda landed steadily. Lord Chief, you are more familiar with this camp. Please lead the way. Wang Sheng stretched out his hand and made a pleased gesture to Song Honda. Song Honda snorted coldly and walked in front. Song Yin did not know whether to laugh or cry. She pinched Wang Sheng's hand and then followed unhurriedly with Wang Sheng. Wasn't a lie to say that he had to hold Song Yan's hand so that the man-eating ants would not attack. Song Honda walked in front, at least 6 feet away from Wang Sheng. Not a single man-eating ant attacked, right? In this camp, Song Honda was the master. He led the two of them through a sea of man-eating ants with great familiarity and entered a relatively luxurious cave. Needless to say, this must be Song Honda's cave in the camp. As the chief, he naturally had better conditions than others. Tell me, what do you want to know? Song Honda sat down angrily. He picked up 2 wooden cups from the handmade wooden rack beside him and filled them with the tea he had made in the land of Thousand Despair. He handed one to Song Yin and held the other one in his hand. Then he turned to Wang Sheng. He had no intention of pouring tea for Wang Sheng. Song Yin did not know whether to laugh or cry. She took the initiative to take another cup from the rack and made tea for Wang Sheng. Only then did she sit between the two men. She was in a dilemma. On one side was her father, and on the other was her fiancé. It was really troublesome. Actually, my goal is to ask you some questions. Wang Sheng wanted to know the answer, so his attitude became better. He asked Song Honda, I want to know. Everyone wants to enter the land of Thousand Despair, but what does everyone want? Is it the thing that condensed the martial intent of the Lin clan's #1 expert? Chapter 314. When Song Honda heard the words martial will, he jumped up like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow. He asked in shock, How did you know? As he questioned Wang Sheng, Song Honda glanced at Song Yin. However, Song Yin also had a shocked expression on her face. What was a martial will that Wang Sheng mentioned? She had no idea. Seeing Song Yin's expression, Song Honda immediately understood that Song Yin had no idea at all. This was something that had been passed down from generation to generation. How could Song Yin have known about it? There was no such information in the clan's records. The problem was, how did Wang Sheng know something that even Song Yin did not know? There was an old monster in the royal family who followed me into the land of Thousand Extremes and accidentally revealed it. Wang Sheng did not explain everything. He only pointed out that he had learned about it from the royal family. Song Honda heaved a sigh of relief. As long as it was not from his own family, it was fine. Given Wang Sheng's ability to discern people's thoughts from their body language, he would be able to guess many things with just one wrong sentence. He did not know which old monster in the royal family had such bad luck that Wang Sheng had taken advantage of him. The royal family also entered the land of Thousand Extremes. Compared to the source of the information, Song Honda was more concerned about other families entering the land of Thousand Extremes. Which old monster? Who else is interested in the land of Thousand Extremes? An old eunuch with the surname Li. It is said that he trains the guards in some royal plantation. Wang Sheng did not hide this. It was best if the families were at odds with each other, so he answered quickly. They went in for a month. They probably wandered around the Divine Eagle prison for half a month. I don't know what they took. The people from Triumph Palace also went in for a month and wandered around the Red Bear Hall for half a month. I don't know what they took. How did you know their whereabouts so clearly? Song Honda could not believe Wang Sheng. How could Wang Sheng know about such a secretive relationship between the royal family and Triumph Palace? Because I led them in and out of the land of Thousand Extremes. Wang Sheng answered the question with disdain, including your Song family. It was because of me that I could come in and find you. Song Honda turned to look at Song Yin, who nodded helplessly. Song Honda was dumbfounded. No wonder Wang Sheng said that if he joined the Song family would immediately become the public enemy. If that was the case, not only could Wang Sheng come and go as he pleased in the place of Thousand Despair, but he could also control the man-eating ants. Didn't that mean that whoever obtained Wang Sheng's help would be able to get the biggest piece of the cake that was the place of Thousand Despair? For a moment, Song Honda really wanted to force Wang Sheng to marry Song Yin. After all, Wang Sheng had already pulled and hugged Song Yin. With this reason, Wang Sheng would definitely be in a tight spot. However, after seeing Wang Sheng's teasing gaze, Song Honda gave up on this idea. Now that their lives were in Wang Sheng's hands, it was better not to say something that would put both sides in a difficult position. That's right. There is a valley near the Lin family. It is said that there are unimaginable secret cultivation manuals carved on the mountain walls. At the same time, there are also powerful martial wills left behind by peerless experts. Since Wang Sheng had already guessed so much, Song Honda didn't need to hide anything. He directly told the truth. The reason why we were able to cultivate to this level in just a dozen years is all because of the aura of the martial wills that were transmitted here. A valley? Carved with secret manuals? Wang Sheng's expression suddenly became strange, as if he didn't dare to confirm it. He asked again. That's right. Since Song Honda had already spoken, there was no need to hide anything. After destroying the Lin family, the peerless experts of our ancestors stayed in that valley to study and comprehend. I believe that the Lin family was able to become the #1 expert in the world in just a few years because they comprehended those secret manuals. What about the Phoenix origin soul? How do you know about it? Wang Sheng awkwardly asked another question about the Phoenix. Wang Sheng didn't want to ask about the martial wills anymore. It wasn't that Wang Sheng didn't care. It was just that Wang Sheng knew about the so-called valley, the so-called secret manuals, and the so-called martial wills. On Earth, Wang Sheng had read many wuxia novels. The girl in his dreams had asked him many questions when he was chatting with her in her dreams. Wang Sheng had taught her many things about combat and survival. Sometimes, when there were some questions that he couldn't answer, he would look for answers from the wuxia novels and use them to guide the girl in his dreams. The so-called secret manuals and martial wills in the valley were completely from the mischievous thoughts that Wang Sheng had when he was guiding the girl in his dreams. He had told the girl in his dreams about the plots of the novels Journey of the Gallant and Shattered the Void. Of course, at that time, Wang Sheng had clearly told the girl in his dreams that it was just a joke. Real cultivation still depended on oneself. He didn't expect that after coming to this world, Wang Sheng would hear from Song Honda, the head of the Song family, that there really was a valley in the Lin family hundreds of years ago that was carved with secret manuals and left behind martial wills. What kind of game did the girl in his dreams play? The secret manuals of Journey of the Gallant and War God Catalog? How was this martial wills? It was clearly a trap to mislead the enemy into thinking that the super cultivation of the #1 expert of the Lin family came from these secret manuals and martial wills. In his dreams, Wang Sheng told the girl in his dreams as a story. In his dreams, Wang Sheng had told the girl many stories. These were only 2 of them. He didn't expect that she would really set it up in reality. Secret manuals and martial wills that could become the #1 expert in the world. No wonder the super experts of the various families were not willing to come out. They were even more unwilling to be monopolized by other families. Then they were trapped in the valley by several fake things. Although the various families used hundreds of arrays to seal the #1 expert of the Lin family, didn't the girl in his dreams use a valley to seal so many super experts of the various families? Wang Sheng couldn't say what he was feeling right now, but one thing was certain: he was one step closer to the girl in his dreams. The Phoenix source spirit was recognized by the Lin family. After Song Honda discovered Wang Sheng's value, he immediately didn't hide anything from Wang Sheng. It is said that part of the valley contains methods to cultivate various super source spirits. There might be a way to cultivate the Phoenix. Following that, Wang Xing asked a few more questions. Song Honda also told him everything he knew. His tone showed that he wanted to win over Wang Sheng. However, Wang Sheng didn't respond. He just gave a normal answer. Song Honda also knew that the previous misunderstanding wouldn't be so easy to eliminate, so he wasn't surprised. Patriarch, who picked this tea for you? As he spoke, Wang Sheng suddenly asked an unrelated question. Song Honda and Song Yin couldn't understand why Wang Sheng's question was so out of the ordinary. Chapter 3:15. What do you mean? Song Honda couldn't understand why Wang Sheng would suddenly ask such a question. He glanced at Song Yin, but Song Yin was also puzzled. Song Honda asked in surprise. Nothing much. I just wanted to ask. Wang Sheng said calmly without any unusual expression on his face. No. Song Yin knew Wang Sheng better than anyone else. Wang Sheng wouldn't ask such a question for no reason. Was there something wrong with the tea they were drinking? However, Wang Sheng picked up his teacup and took another sip after asking the question. He didn't have any scruples, nor did he try to hide. Could it be that Song Yin was overthinking it? Song Yin frowned. She had no idea what Wang Sheng was thinking. Song Honda was also pondering. Suddenly, he didn't know if he should answer this question. Forget it. Wang Sheng smiled when he saw the frowns on both of their faces and casually changed the topic. Just as he was about to continue, Song Yin suddenly stopped Wang Sheng. She turned to Song Honda and said earnestly, "Father, if it's convenient, please tell me." Song Honda was stunned for a moment, but then he felt relieved. He was an extremely intelligent person, so he naturally understood that Wang Sheng wouldn't ask such an irrelevant question for no reason. Since even his daughter wanted to know, there was no problem with him telling her. One of my trusted subordinates picked it for me. Song Honda didn't say the name of his subordinate. He only said vaguely, "Don't worry, I can absolutely trust him. He can die for me at any time." There was no doubt about his loyalty if he was willing to die for the family head. Song Yin also breathed a sigh of relief. Song Honda seemed to be afraid that Song Yin would worry, so he added, "These teas can be found outside, but the ones we're drinking now are all picked in the land of 1,000 extremities. They're fresh." Just when Song Yin was really relieved, Wang Sheng asked again, "You've been drinking this tea for decades, right? Who was the first person to make you feel that the tea tasted good?" Even if Song Honda didn't take it to heart, as soon as this question came out, he knew that something was wrong, and his expression became serious. Song Yan's eyes went wide as she looked at her father, and then at Wang Sheng, her heart filled with unspeakable worry. It has been a few decades. Song Honda thought for a moment and nodded in agreement with Wang Sheng's judgment. Then, he racked his brain for a long time before he remembered. Back then, Song Hongwu must have given me a packet. It tasted pretty good, so I slowly got into the habit of drinking tea. Is there a problem? Song Yin covered her mouth when she heard Song Hongwu's name. Wang Sheng glanced at him and asked in confusion, "Is this person?" "My cousin." Song Yin didn't say anything, so Song Honda answered directly. "He's the Song clan's grand elder, who's currently in charge of the Song clan." "Oh." Wang Sheng suddenly understood. If it was the great elder, then it made sense. "Are you the only one in the Song clan who drinks this tea?" Wang Sheng didn't come to a direct conclusion, but continued to ask. "Not many people drink it, and the places that produce it are limited. I've tried growing it in other places, but it doesn't taste like this." Song Honda explained very clearly. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. He had to get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep soundly. "I discovered this tea by chance. There was a place where the tea trees grew, and the taste was even better than outside. So, even in the lands of 1,000 extremities, I didn't stop drinking it. It does taste good." Wang Sheng picked up the cup and took another sip. This time, however, he smacked it in his mouth for a long time, as if savoring it carefully. "The place of origin is limited, so I can be sure that most of this tea went into your stomach." After Wang Sheng swallowed the tea in his mouth, he said with certainty, "It's the same here. It's all yours. No one else has the right to enjoy it." Song Honda nodded. He didn't think there was anything wrong with this. As the head of the Song clan, couldn't he enjoy it more than others? For little Yan's sake, I won't keep you in suspense. Looking at Song Yan's anxious face, Wang Sheng said directly, "You've been poisoned. If you have the chance, go find an expert to treat you." Hearing this, Song Yin and Song Honda were both shocked. Song Yan's heart was filled with worry. Looking at her father, she was on the verge of tears. They had only met for less than 2 hours. How could father be poisoned? Song Honda was even more shocked. How was this possible? He had drunk this tea for so many years, and he had never felt anything wrong with it. But Wang Sheng suddenly said that he was poisoned. Was he joking? If it was poisoned, would Wang Sheng drink it so happily? It's not a problem to drink 1 or 2 cups of this tea. It's even fine to drink it for a few months. At this time, Wang Sheng expressed his judgment. But it's inevitable to be poisoned after drinking it for so many years. Taotai transformation gave Wang Sheng a peerless tongue. As soon as something good entered his mouth, Wang Sheng could taste it. Just as the tea entered his mouth, Wang Sheng tasted something wrong. Frankly speaking, this tea was indeed good in terms of taste. At least Wang Sheng drank it well, but the heavy metals in it were definitely excessive. That kind of taste couldn't be grown in other places. It was the taste of some kind of heavy metal. Wang Sheng was sure. The Taotai tongue was not to be trifled with. Wang Sheng even used the Buddhist incantation of 9 words. Combining the 2 words soldier, the heavy metal toxins in a cup of tea that were almost undetectable were immediately expelled. Wang Sheng could do this, but Song Honda couldn't. He liked the taste of this tea and drank it for decades. Wang Sheng was completely sure that the heavy metals in Song Honda's body were excessive. Now that his cultivation was high, he could withstand it, but in a few years' time, he might not be able to. There was no need to think too hard. Great Elder Song Hongwu must have discovered this. That was why he recommended this tea to Song Honda so early and made him addicted. Big families couldn't do without this kind of drama. It was all over the place in movies and television on Earth. For the great elder to be able to set up such a trap decades ago, his shrewdness, patience, and ingenuity left people speechless. They couldn't help but admire him. After all, Song Honda was an ambitious and ruthless person. After the initial shock, he quickly calmed down. "Thank you for the reminder." After thanking Wang Sheng sincerely, Song Honda comforted his worried daughter. "Don't worry, we'll go back now. When we get back, we'll find an expert to treat the poison." Song Yin also gave Wang Sheng a grateful look, but didn't say anything. "It was my fault before. I apologize." At this time, Song Honda was very shameless to admit defeat. Anyway, there was only him and his daughter here. Maybe Wang Sheng could fight to become his son-in-law. When that time came, he would get back at him. Look, you have the final say in this situation. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.